Good sticks, everyone. Welcome to the Captain Avalanche Fancast, your unofficial source for all things Colorado Avalanche hockey and more from a fan perspective, hosted by me, Captain Avalanche Corey, and the Chum Bucket is under new management, Dom. Now, we're no insiders. We're not inside the locker room face-to-face with our favorite players, but we hope to create a relatable and welcoming environment because we're just like all of you listening. Fans with a deep passion for the game of hockey, and in this case, the Colorado Avalanche. We're back again for another week of hockey and hilarity, and clearly, so are you. And for that, we appreciate you. No, really, we do. We appreciate those of you who have been tuning in and those of you who've stuck around through the entire episode. We appreciate those of you who derive something of value or at least some laughs from this show. We appreciate those of you who follow or subscribe to us on whatever platforms you're listening to. And if you haven't and you keep coming back, we really would appreciate it if you could take the time to click those easy to press and ever so tempting buttons. And if you ever change your mind, which we hope you don't, it's really easy to revert that decision. It does help this show grow, and sharing this podcast with the people that you think need to hear it helps. Or maybe if you don't think they need to hear it, even better, honestly. It helps the game of hockey reach more ears than ever. Now then, we have an utterly solid show, an absolutely stacked lineup for you today. More solid than Valeri Nichushkin's abs. Last week, we had to defer our discussion of the Nordiques jersey to this week, and it worked out because they are here, released to the public in all their historic glory. I want to point out that I wrote this before I even saw them. I just knew they were going to be sexy, and I will die on that hill. And I also have one in my hands, and they do look that good. Next, clearly some of you out there are listening because we got our very first viewer-submitted question, which we will seek to... Yes, Dom, he was there. He was cheering in the background as it, barely caught your audio, but we know what you wanted. We will seek to answer in all of our infinite wisdom and endless wealth of hockey knowledge. The Avalanche were also perfect this week, almost, so of course we need to boast all about that. Kind of forgot that they were going to play Utah when I wrote this intro. Silly me. We take a look back at how our preseason divisional rankings have already epically collapsed, or are perhaps 100% correct with 0 errors. Finally, we'll solemnly dive into this week's edition of In the Tank with Dom. All that and perhaps a few surprises along the way. The Nordiques jersey controversy. Avalanche marketing. Being so coy, the teases they are. We knew the new historical throwback Nordiques jerseys were coming. In fact, we've known longer than the Avalanche have even been teasing it, thanks to Kevin Weeks during the summer and his infamous tweet. With this jersey, we knew it would be revealed at some point, which was its own controversy in its own right. And with that, there is one sect of fans who were absolutely stoked for this jersey and are ready to drop the amount necessary to procure one. Full disclosure, I am a part of that crowd, and I did drop the money necessary. The other side of it are the folks who, how do I say it politely, pissed that the Avalanche would even think of releasing these jerseys, and how dare they appropriate the Nordiques and profit off of the team that they stole! So I figured that Dom and I would have an open-ended discussion about what we thought. Him and I may agree, we may not agree. We may agree, but have different reasons and thought processes. But ultimately, I want folks to know that it is okay if we don't agree. And it's okay if you don't agree with us either. Ultimately, though, the thing to remember is that this jersey has been released. It exists. And the great part is you can decide with your money if you will support it or not. Dom, I will go ahead and give you the floor though to start us off, since you're kind of the outsider perspective on this one. You are the non-Avalanche, non-Nordiques fan, so I feel like it makes sense for you to get us started on this one.
Well, thanks, Corey. I got to go back all the way to the intro because I'm glad to be the new manager of the Chum Bucket. Uh, much
Are
like
you?
Plankton, I'm still searching for a Krabby Patty, although that is, in my case, a Sharks win. So I have been unfortunately compared to Plankton on more than one occasion before in this lifetime. If you know the FUN song, I prefer Plankton's verse personally because I'm just a devious little asshole. But ultimately, let's talk Nordiques instead of the SpongeBob parables because man, I am kind of pissed at the timing on this because if we had talked about this last week before they had dropped, then I would have been able to drop my entirely correct prediction. And there are friends of mine who have texted and know that this is true that I predicted when asked directly when the Avs would first wear these jerseys. I predicted the first time would come against the Carolina Hurricanes, who would be wearing Hartford Whaler throwbacks. And not only, you know what? It's not only happening once, it's happening twice this year. And we are all blessed because both of those jerseys are classics. And I love both of them. Iconic logos that really have stood the test of time. So, all that aside, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the Nordiques jerseys are wonderful, and we don't get to see those classic logos often enough. And while Quebec fans might be salty, they don't have to blame the Colorado Avalanche so much as the management and the rich people, let's be real, who ultimately decided to move the team. The players are the players. They don't really get to make those choices. The fans here certainly did not make that choice. So the blame can go from the many to the 1% as is a parallel to sometimes how we approach things in our society. But nonetheless, my point being that I don't think Quebec Nordiques fans should be mad at Colorado Avalanche fans. They should be united in their joy and respect for seeing a classic logo on the ice once again. And that's really what's at the heart of my take here.
Let me tell you, they're really nice. Like, the pictures do not do justice to how nice these jerseys look. But I have a problem, and I'll get to that, but I do want to kind of get to my bullet points here. And that's, as you mentioned, just like how all of the Coyotes players were moved from Arizona to Utah, all of the Quebec Nordiques players were moved from Quebec to Colorado. Same players, different teams. It's not great that Quebec lost a team. I will always acknowledge that. I think it's terrible that Arizona lost their team. I think it's terrible that Atlanta's lost a team twice. It is never fun for a market, for a city to lose the team that they love. Although the Nordiques were kind of ass when they were in Quebec, but, that's besides the point. But I do want to point out the fact that not only did a Nordiques original in Joe Sakic play for the Nordiques and then the Avs, but he now runs the team. And I feel like there's a really big connection or connecting point with that. And so I don't necessarily think you're taking away from the history or appropriating the history, because the players who were involved in the original organization still are. And I mean, Michel Goulet makes appearances all the time with the Avalanche alumni organization. And a lot of those old Nordiques players are also a part of the Avalanche alumni organization. So that's really cool that they are then still involved in their own ways in the history of these two franchises that are connected in their roots. And so I don't necessarily see it as something as an offense, but I think it's something historical, honoring the recognition. One thing I did see online is, original Quebec fans are mad that maybe the Avs aren't honoring like the Nordiques retired numbers and things like that. But it's a slippery slope, because one, I don't know if, like, for example, Winnipeg honored any Atlanta Thrashers retired numbers. If there were any Atlanta Thrashers retired numbers, I have no idea. But other expansion franchises or teams that have been sold and relocated. I don't know if they've, because I don't want to make assumptions if they have or haven't, if they've honored their previous club's retired numbers, but in a weird way that goes somewhat counter to what I'm saying. They are ultimately two different franchises with their own histories, but I think the Avalanche are now trying to right the wrong in that way and bringing attention to the history of the Nordiques that they share. So I don't know if that made any sense, but that's what I think.
And that we agree is that I can understand, and if I didn't say it the first time, I just want to be clear now that I do have my condolences to the fans of Quebec who lost their team. Their team was bad, but that didn't make it any less theirs. And speaking as a Sharks fan and owner of the bottom of the league for the last couple of years, I feel that. And I'm sure fans in Buffalo, for an example, probably feel the same, where they're born into it and own their team until they die. And so losing the team is painful. It might feel like a death in the family for some, with how big, especially with how big hockey is in Canada. But ultimately, that I think we're in agreement here that we are honoring the heritage of the Nordiques. We are honoring the heritage of the NHL and bringing it back for everyone to see. So it's not just something that's in books or that you actually have to go looking for. Imagine all these new fans coming to the NHL while it is growing who have never heard of or seen the Nordiques before, who are now exposed to that and see some of that history. So I think it's important for bringing old fans maybe back into touch and bringing new fans into some historical education in a really cool and fashionable way. But I guess, it's we can just share our opinions. I don't know if there's a right answer, but ultimately they are two different franchises. I don't think Nordiques numbers that were retired should be honored by the Avs. They are different teams. And if you need it, then
Hello? Dom? Oh, God.
unique as well in special edition when they wear the Nordiques ones, so that then there's just a little something small. It also makes the merchandise more sellable. So, just that business idea just coming off the top. But, they are two different franchises. I don't think there's this obligation to do that. For when a new team is expected to take on the old, they should write their own history, is my opinion.
Yes. And then in their own way, be recognizing of where they came from with these jerseys. So, and I also didn't think about it that way. Is this is a great way to introduce them to, or introduce new hockey fans, the new generations, to these historical franchises through the teams that they are familiar with and that they're fans of. You're exactly right. A kid might have no idea who the Quebec Nordiques are, and now they do because they're seeing their favorite Avalanche players repping those jerseys. So you're 100% right in that regard. So
And
I didn't
for
think
all
about it
the
that way.
listeners, well, and I think, well, yeah, sorry, I was a little, I caught my tongue there with words, but for all the listeners, I don't actually technically have an Avalanche hat. I have a Nordiques hat. Take that how you will.
Hmm.
Wore it to the Avalanche game. Corey was there with me when I bought it. Because it is such a classic piece of history. I don't have a Carolina Hurricanes hat, but I have had my Hartford Whalers hat since I was young. And I was only exposed to the Whalers because my father loved the Whalers logo. So if you don't have that, that's how this point comes back around. Is if you didn't have that upbringing, you didn't have someone to introduce that history to you, then you really had no shot to see it before. And so I think having, for Nordiques fans up in Canada, at least having your jersey be seen or an opportunity to buy your jersey again, especially if they're still a fan of the Avalanche. I mean, I'm sure I would be if I had no better option. I would be finding a way going on like ESPN Plus or something to get that game because that's the team I want to see. Because like Lord knows the Sharks games are never on network television here in Colorado. So I have to go to streaming services. And that's the way the world's going. So I imagine there are probably a lot of Quebec Nordiques fans who are doing something similar, streaming Avalanche games. And so now they have a chance to buy jerseys for Avalanche players. So I think it's a good chance for them to see it positively as well.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything more to add to that other than I agree with you. But like I said to everybody who's listening, if you have a different opinion, that's okay. If you're angry about these jerseys, that's okay. I acknowledge that. I don't necessarily agree with you, but I do acknowledge that. And again, you can decide with your wallet what you would like to do. And I'm not going to tell you one way or another how to deal with getting these jerseys. I really wanted one and I found a way to get one, and it is authentic. It was straight from the store. But oh boy, it was not an easy thing to do. What I will say, now that I'm being reminded, is I do have a problem. And it's not with the jersey, but it is with, I hate to say this, it is with the Avalanche themselves. And that is this artificial scarcity fucking horseshit. Let me tell you something. Let me fucking tell you something. I was at work because they decided to drop this jersey on a fucking random ass Tuesday instead of at any of the games that I attended, like so many other teams did. They just decided, Tuesday will be the day, even though they made it look like they were going to drop the jersey against the Bruins, which I was at that fucking game. I was ready to give them my goddamn money. And for some reason, they're like, no, we must make them wait more. And then they dropped the jersey. It was available to buy online at 10 a.m. And then you could go, the store opened up at noon to buy it physically. And I was like, well, I think I maybe want to buy it physically. Just because I want to have it in my hands right then, and then I want to put it right on. I wanted a Gabriel Landeskog version of this jersey. Well, little did my dumbass know, and I checked it probably less than a half hour after they went live on altitudeauthentics.com. Gone. Every single player, every single size, gone. That's horseshit. Do you hate money? Pretty much everyone I saw online who wanted one didn't get one, myself included. The only reason I got one is because my dear, incredible mother, after her own job, drove to the Altitude Authentics store when they had extended hours to go and try and track down this jersey for me. And I thought that there was no possible way that this jersey would be available in my size. If they were there, it was just going to be kid sizes, whatever. Everything was going to be picked clean. Because if you saw the pictures on the Avalanche subreddit at noon, all of these jobless motherfuckers are showing up, lining up down the fucking block to get in there. Who is able to show up at noon on a Tuesday? Who are you? I tried to get somebody to go for me, but of course, everybody that I knew was about as busy as they could possibly be on that day. Because of course they were. Also, I want everybody to know that I'm joking. I'm sure some of you have very interesting work schedules, or some of you used PTO to get off. I would have done that if I wasn't in the middle of training for my job. Because if it was just normal work day, I absolutely would have been like, I've got the runs. I'm going to go put it on my sick pay. Absolutely would have done that. Couldn't, unfortunately. But it was a madhouse, and once again, just it wasn't handled well. And why they have to only offer a limited number online makes zero sense to me. I am absolutely a proponent of if you want a piece of merch, you should be able to get a piece of merch. So I promise you that the day that the Captain Avalanche Fancast drops merch, it will be a fucking pre-order. So if you want a piece of merch, you can get a piece of merch. I will not do this bullshit where I only offer like 100 of them. No, if you want it, you can get it. There's no artificial scarcity here to drum up demand. I want you to get it if you want it. And that's what the Avalanche should be doing because people want these jerseys. It's very obvious based on the fact of how fast they sold out, how long the line was. People wanted these things. But it's such bullshit that like people like me who are stuck at work, it's like, well, there's nothing I can do, so I just get fucked. or all the fans who are outside of the state who can't visit in store, if they weren't ready to go at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. I had people who said they had it in their carts and they didn't check out fast enough. Who the fuck is that fast? So it's just, I don't agree with that practice. I think it's bullshit. And that's what I wanted to say. I'm very thankful I got the jersey. It's a McKinnon variant. It looks incredible. No hate towards McKinnon, but it just felt right to get Landeskog. So if you are listening and you have a Landeskog one that is authentic, I will happily trade you the McKinnon, or I will buy it off of you for, retail price, maybe a little extra on the side, but I will buy it off of you if you have a legitimate one from Altitude Authentics. I don't want, one of the remakes. I don't want one from Fanatics that doesn't have the sewn on numbers. It has to be the sewn because I'm weird like that. But anyway, I wanted to bitch and moan about artificial scarcity because it's stupid.
Well, I feel like we've just started the complete corner a little bit early tonight. And you know what? It's totally valid because artificial scarcity is some serious bullshit. You're right about the pre-order. If you're already going to be selling the jerseys for 200 plus a pop and you have people there who want to buy them, you're going to make that money. And if you do a pre-order, you don't have to worry about scalpers. Because guess what? Shit's cheaper when you order it in bulk. You're going to order more anyway. It's going to cost you more if you order them in smaller groupings, but you're going to have multiple. Or you've ordered a massive one and you're gatekeeping it from the fans, even though you're trying to artificially inflate the value of this jersey. But clearly, it doesn't need that. There is so much demand. You don't have to limit the supply. You could have a massive supply and people are still going to pay $200 for it. Hell, I am a fan of a different team and I want to pay $200 to get one. I want an authentic one because they are so cool looking. And I've been saying it time and time again. Cale Makar is a wonderful player. And if I'm going to be here in Colorado for the foreseeable future, I need to have a jersey for when the Captain Avalanche podcast is going to these games. I need to be able to rep, and what better jersey than a Nordiques one is my opinion, because I think it is a classic logo and it deserves to be seen around. And I mean, it ties into our previous conversation. But man, yeah, I mean, we agree that it is stupid. And I know, Corey, I've kind of just on the fly ad hoc things and put us in the complaint corner, but Can I air a couple quick other complaints that were voiced to me?
Yeah, you absolutely can. One thing before you do, I do have good news. The few jerseys that they do have left, Cale Makar is one of the two. So if you want, try and get down to Altitude Authentics. They've been running extended hours this week. So if you get down there, you might still be able to get Cale Makar Nordiques jersey if you want one.
Oh, wonderful. Good to know. Thank you, Corey. I will have to find a way to make that work this week. Maybe a Friday task.
Yeah, agreed.
But
anyway, please, there's some more complaints. Yes.
We had our first viewer question this week, which was wonderful to hear. And we had our first viewer, although it was not in any of the comment sections, so don't go looking for it. It was voiced directly to me with actual words. But Avalanche fans, we love you here. And we kind of talked about this a little bit last week, but y'all, next time you see the Stars, can we maybe stop booing Mikko Rantanen? Because I get it. You're butthurt, you're upset, but that's what Jamie Benn is for. That's what Duchesne is for. Those are guys you boo. If everybody is upset, and we talked about it with all of this news and chatter from the media, yada, 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 Mikko, oh, this dramatic thing between the Avalanche and the Stars. Well, if you want it to go away, which I personally do, and I think, Corey, you do as well, I don't mean to speak for you, maybe stop booing the man. It's not his fault. The bigger of a deal you make of it, the more it's going to get talked about. Move on. You have the Marty Party, who's looking mighty fine out there for your team now. So how about we focus on the positive and not be continuously injecting negative? This was, again, brought to me by actual Avalanche fans who are Colorado natives who are just a little sick of it, who love this team and don't want there to be just this negativity swirling in the air. But Corey, you're also die-hard lifer as an Avalanche fan, so tell me, am I a little out of pocket with this one?
I will say I don't 100% agree with you, respectfully. And just for time's sake, I'm going to air out my thing, and I'm not going to let us go too deep down this rabbit hole, but I am going to give my counterpoint to you. One, I do understand the boos to the respect that A, they're frustrated. One, because he sent us home last year. And boy, oh boy, the media will not let us forget that. So I think in a way that is a projection of those frustrations, even if we don't hate them. Because to be totally honest with you, I just got a autographed Mikko Rantanen jersey that's going to be framed and go up on the wall in my new basement because I still love Mikko. I love him. He was one of the best Avalanche players ever, period. He was a big reason we have a cup. But, you know, regardless of what you think of the negotiations, something went wrong from both ends, in my opinion. And when it came to being traded from Carolina, he had a choice. Dallas was not his only option. And from what I have come to understand is that he went out of his way to then choose Dallas so he could ram the decision down, Avs management's throat. Not the fans, obviously. We didn't have anything to do with that. But, I think it was his way of getting revenge on the management. Obviously, he's still really good friends with all of his teammates. He was at Nathan McKinnon's wedding earlier this year. Still a lot of love there, but no love when you're playing together. And I think that's the whole thing. I would love to meet the man, love to shake his hand and say, hey, man, you brought a lot of great memories to me as a kid, as a young adult. Nothing but respect for you. But he's also on Dallas, and I fucking hate Dallas. And you won't catch me booing him, but ultimately I understand the decision to do it, and I'm as much of a policeman I can be sometime of fan behavior. This one I can kind of see both ends for, but, I get the boos, personally.
And that there is some compelling argument there, and I did not know, actually, that bit about him having a choice. So, clearly, I don't know everything, but, I'm always here just looking for the positive. But moving on, because I actually have more negative, which you might have been able to hear in the background from the highlight clip, because Mason Marchment is a fuck ass schmuck who runs into goaltenders and just barrels through them as he did against Anthony Stolar. So, yeah, just fuck you, Mason. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Any Mason Marchment slander is a good day in my opinion. But okay. Also, but all due respect to your friends for airing that opinion, and they are absolutely, and apparently they're listening. So hey, y'all are absolutely free to not boo Mikko Rantanen. I will join you in that. I will not boo him, but I also understand why there's boos. And again, the media just won't let us forget, even though we do want to forget. In that regard, we want to forget, but they won't let us forget. Okay. Anyway, I have a lot of trauma inside right now. Not from Mikko Rantanen. Anyways, it's time for our first viewer question in a new segment called Hockey Inquiries. We're so excited. Hockey is a weird game, and it can be difficult to understand at times. Just when you think you have it all down as a newer fan, learning the game, a new curveball comes your way. No, wait. Wrong sport. When a knuckle puck flips your way. Regardless, we can always learn something new, and we should be seeking to always keep learning. I'm learning something new about the game I love on an almost daily basis, usually in the middle of recording these episodes. But nevertheless, we should always be asking questions, and that's how we learn. And the only stupid questions are the ones that we don't ask. So thank you to our viewer who wishes to remain anonymous for submitting their series of questions this week. So, what are we attempting to answer? How do hockey lines work? How do the Avalanche and other team determine who is on which line? How do they know when to change line and who is changing? What is the overall strategy? That is a lot. And I don't know. That's the end of the segment. I don't know. I'm kidding, obviously. I had you there in suspense, though, didn't I? But I'll acknowledge a shortcoming in me not playing the game. I'll acknowledge that that's a shortcoming of me not playing the game is I don't have those answers. I don't have that experience because that's really kind of a deep level question, deeper than you might think. However, what I do have is resources and people who have coached and played the game that I can ask when questions like this arrive, and I can then deliver it to you. So everyone say thank you to Coach Frank and Dylan for helping me find my answers today. Of course, Dom is always a diligent researcher, so he'll also be able to help us find the answers together as well. So when I presented this to Coach Frank and Dylan, when I was asking them these questions, I kind of split it up here. So the first thing that I asked was, when coaching, how did Coach Frank determine what players played on what line, and how does he feel that NHL coaches do it? To which he said, at any level, you as a coach pick the players that complement each other. And that means that if you have a center that's great at passing and a winger that's a shot taker, you pair those two together. Then your third winger, you'd pick a player that complements those two. If you had more defensive forwards, you would pair those together because of their complementary chemistry. You learned all this via practice. It was offensive and defensive pairings that you would put together, experiment with, and thus why that training camp is so important. And you would put them together and see, how do they work? Is this working? Is it not? For example, an offensive defenseman, he would often put an offensive defenseman with a stay-at-home defenseman. And so it's really just about narrowing down that chemistry. Chemistry is the big word here. And another thing is I asked him about, well, you can't just have, anybody on any which line. There is a difference in talent level. Like, of course, people who play in the NHL, it's the best league in the world, but there still is quite a difference in talent level from somebody who plays on the fourth line versus somebody who plays at the first line. Like, all due respect to Parker Kelly, but you would not compare Parker Kelly anywhere near to Nathan MacKinnon. They're both fantastic hockey players, but they're very different. And so you also then would identify that talent level. Who is those echelons above other players? And, you might find that anchor point. Like, Nathan MacKinnon is your anchor point, and he's the most talented, so he would go on the top line. And then you would use that as your basis for finding those complementary players around him. Because maybe on some teams, Arturi Lehkonen could be a second, third line player, but here on the Avs, he complements Nathan MacKinnon perfectly. Martin Necas complements Nathan MacKinnon's speed and passing ability perfectly. So that's what I got for my answer. Dom, what do you have to add?
Well, I think fundamentally at the root of this, especially, I'm not sure at what level uh, either Coach Frank and Coach Dill coaching at, if we're talking little league all the way up through, or not little league, but you know what I mean, all the way up through the college level. So you'll have to tell me about that
high
sometime.
school and junior level.
Okay, junior. Thank you. So I think the one thing that's consistent, and you see it more at the younger levels, especially I read an anecdote about just being in like with kids first out there when they're like 8, and everybody wants to play on offense and nobody wants to play on defense. So you kind of just have to constantly rotate everybody until you figure out the ones that were able to play defense and the ones that that gave you the best chance to win in that way. And then when you figure that out, then you have to keep rotating until you figure out the lines that work. I think at the beginning, very early on, it is trial and error. When there is a huge overhaul of a team and you have a clean slate, and that's what you see the Sharks are trying to do right now. Wipe the slate clean, new head coach in his second season right now, a lot of young talent, piece it together, build from the ground up so you can figure out how that chemistry works. Now, when you're coming new into a team that has a lot of star players locked up, that's a rare scenario, but You have to adjust and learn the players you have again through trial and error, such as in training camp. And early in the season, you might lose some more games until you figure out the recipes. So I can't add on what a coach who actually knows what they're talking about can say, but I think fundamentally that's at the root of any of this is that trial and error, learning by figuring out what doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the next part of the question was, how do NHL coaches determine what line should be on the ice at any given moment and what strategy is involved? So, the too long didn't read version of this answer really is there's a lot that goes on before the game in constructing your strategy, but there actually is even more that goes on during the game. And what Coach Frank said to me was, quote, I always tried to put my more defensive players on against the offensive prowess of the other team. If I had a grinder or forechecker, I would put him on their best forward because he'd just be bumping and grinding on him all night and limit his ability to play the game. If you are the home team, and maybe some of you didn't know this, you get the last change in priority to put your lines out. What that means is if, for example, let's say there's a stoppage in play that isn't like an icing or something. Let's say the goalie catches the puck and the whistle's blown. The visiting team will put whatever line they want out on the ice, or they'll leave the line that's out there. You as the home team have the advantage of then saying, well, if they're going to put that line out there, I want to put this line out there instead. And if for whatever reason they then change their line, you have the priority to then change your line too. I think there actually is a limit to how many times you can do it, because there was a time where teams just kept trading out players because of the matchup. So you get priority for last change if you're the home team, and it's kind of final once you're out there. But moving on here, he said, when it comes to a power play, I always put my top best forwards with my top defensive pair to create a barrage on the net. The strategy, though, he said, can change throughout the game. If the top line isn't working, I would change it up and see how different players work together. So he'd fundamentally restructure the line. He said I'd also start pairing fourth lines against each other. You have to set your lines, but a lot can change during the game. You will lose if you don't make changes. Good coaches will make those adjustments. You need to be a student of the sport, really understand what's going on, and make those changes during game time. You have to be able to identify. A good and he finished it with, a good coach can pull talent out of an average player. So he said, also, I think that actually I have that coming up later. So I'll save that thought. But that was Coach Frank's take on that. Dom, what else you got?
Well, I think there's some points there I could maybe just expand upon, but realistically, what it sounds like Coach Frank is saying is play strength against strength and say, I'm going to put my strongest defensive line against your strongest offensive line. Rather than putting my best forwards, my best offense out against your best offense, I'm going to trust in my defense and make my defense go up against your offense and maybe be more of a prevent that way, right? Limit the damage, because if your top line is out there and they're getting beat by their top offensive line, you're not getting those top goal scoring opportunities that they might be going, and you might be more vulnerable. So it seems like a generally defensive posture of where I'm going to set up this wall and make you beat me. And then that also means your top offensive line gets a matchup against a different line than their top line. So I see some of that play at work there. In general, I think starting fourth lines playing against each other is really common. Although eventually, I think there are times when you put a fourth line out there against a second line. We've talked about those lines that are just irritating and frustrating, and doing what the Parker Kellys of the world do and be physical, steal the puck, make it difficult to operate on offense. And so if you can get the most out of your fourth line, the guys who aren't carrying the most of minutes, who aren't going to be your offensive firepower, but they successfully shut down the other team's offense, that's really their job and their goal. And going all the way back to where this started, that's where there's different jobs and different objectives of each line on the ice and what that are attuned to what they are skilled at. And I think lastly at the end there with the good coaches make adjustments, this isn't just during intermission. This is live throughout the game, mixing up lines as you go, switching up power play units, or even like going from having 3 offensive players and 2 defensemen to 4 and 1, or even a 5 offense power play, depending on what the situation requires. A lot of it requires not only being in tune with the state of the game, but knowing your players really well and being able to sense, tell, just perceive what guys are having an on night, be able to read their body language and get into their mind to see who's really on their game and who isn't. And perhaps someone on the fourth line is playing a heck of a game and someone on the top line isn't. And you know what? Switch them up. Literally switch them up. Get the guy on the fourth line who's having his best game in a long time. Get him more minutes and get him more minutes next to players who will help him elevate, who are at that higher class or tier of player, because that is another way you could pull talent out of an average player, like he said to finish his statement. So I think a lot of it is ultimately situational, but the strategy is constant. So for us to try to map out every situation would be multiple episodes on its own.
Exactly. And to kind of correct myself here to make sure I'm properly conveying what Coach Frank was saying, the pairing fourth lines against each other was like part of his adjustment statement. Like, for example, maybe he did start out by throwing his fourth line out against their top line or his grind line out against their second line. But if he notices that that isn't working, then yes, he'll make that change. Maybe it just needs to be a fourth line against fourth line, because what he had indicated was, he knows his guys and he knows how to play to their strengths. So if he's paying attention to the game and seeing how the other team is playing, then he knows, oh, well, my guy's going to be really good against their guy in this situation. And so that's where those adjustments are coming from. So he did say, in my rapid typing to try and capture everything, really more akin to what you were alluding to there. So I just want to make sure I correct myself here that Coach Frank is not, just a silly bum who's just like, yes, fourth line against fourth line. No, that was part of his adjustment strategy if the original one wasn't working.
And then that's totally fair, but those are the type of matchups you'll see during the playoffs. When you have a third line on third line or fourth line on fourth line, where it is just a battle for every inch of ice and the hockey is just at another tier of physical, those are the type of matchups when you can get them that can change the momentum in hockey games, where you just win by out muscling the other team and you can get in their head and swing momentum just by being forceful that way. So even when I misinterpreted it, I actually think there is those times and scenarios like Coach was saying as well, that fourth line on fourth line can really be a dramatic power shift in a given game.
Yeah, absolutely. So then to lead us, I think, into our final point here is, how do lines know when to change, and how do they know who to change with? And is it always the same person? Defense, actually, and I didn't even know this, defense is on one end of the bench and offense is on the other. And they sit together based on their lines. And I did want to clarify, because I realized there was some confusion in the original email that we got. Lines are not 5 players. Lines are 3 forwards, right? So you have your top line, which for the Colorado Avalanche is Nathan MacKinnon, Martin Necas, and Artturi Lehkonen. That is a line. And then you have defensive pairs. So you pair defensive pairs with offensive lines. So a line is not actually a combination of the defensive pairing and the offensive line, because you have more forwards than you do defensemen. You only have 6 or 7 defensemen any given night, whereas you have 12 forwards. So you can't always be throwing Cale Makar and Devon Toews out there at the same time as Nathan MacKinnon, Martin Necas, and Artturi Lehkonen. It wouldn't work. You can't do it. They'd be out there even more than they already are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay,
absolutely.
I guess I'll just go
I lost your audio there.
Dom. Damn. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I don't know if my audio lost you or I thought you were pausing for me, but I wanted to jump in there.
I wasn't pausing. You must have just lost my audio, but hold on. Let me see. Did I have anything else to say? No, go ahead.
Well, I think something you said there, and maybe it was when it was cut out, but important about where the offense and defense sits. So I don't know if you have more you wanted to say on
Oh, I
that, but
do.
it's
I do
actually
have
quite
more to say
critical.
to that. Yeah, I do
Okay,
have
great. Then
more.
you
Okay,
just
I'll wrap up
you go with
here
your
and then
statement.
I'll say go. Okay. So yeah, so they sit based on their lines. Clarified what lines are. So when one line goes out, the next line will shift up towards the door. And you don't want your lines out for a super long time, usually 30 seconds to a minute, sometimes a little longer. And players actually have an internal clock and they know when to get off when they're tired. And I learned that coaches, apparently, this does happen in the NHL too. So if you're ever at a live game, I've been told to do this. Pay attention to the coaches. And I compared it to being in a musical, which is what I did because I'm a giant nerd. Is what they always told you was even if you were in the ensemble, even if you weren't the main character, someone is always looking at you because something is always happening somewhere. And it's the same thing in a hockey game. We're always usually focused on where the puck is, but there's always stuff that's happening behind the play, to the side, and away from the puck, as well as something going on the bench. And so coaches then can also call players off of the ice if they want to readjust to a new defensive pairing that's just gone on, or they want to make a more favorable matchup on the ice. They'll call players off to get different ones on as quickly as possible. And another thing is, if you're skating 30 to 40 seconds and that line is clicking, like I said, the coach will give them a little more rink time. And 9 times out of 10, they did their job. They score the goal. They do they do what the coach wants them to do. And kind of going back to our original point, it's the coach's job to analyze the game. Sometimes you put guys out and they have a shitty 15 seconds and the coach will just pull them right off. And then he'll wait a little bit and they'll think to them, he'll put them back out and they'll think, okay, I got to work a little harder here. And they'll adjust as players and do better on the ice. And that's also why we have assistant coaches, because you can't watch the entire ice at once. That's why we have defensive coaches. That's why we have power play coaches, because the head coach has final say, but these assistant coaches are looking at different aspects of the game. They're seeing different areas of the ice for players that they can deploy. And so, yeah, that's pretty much all I got. No good rounding off point there, but Dom, okay, I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so no, I think that's a great point, and it sums it up nicely. Where it is situational, and there is someone always watching. And I picture Monsters Inc. always watching, because that's why there are so many assistant coaches on the bench. And even if they're watching the monsters on the ground, if you've seen coaches looking down after a goal, that's them looking at an instant replay, trying to challenge. So even if they're not looking on the ice, there's something to look at, and they're always watching. The one thing you did say at the start of the point that I wanted to mention is about the ends of the bench of offense and defense. And they actually each have their own door, and how defensive players are on the side nearest their net. So if we are looking at the benches, and your team is on the left hand side, the defenses are going to be as far the defensemen are going to be as far to the left as possible. And then on the right hand side, if your team's on that side, on that bench, they're going to be as far to the right, so they have a shorter path to get to their own defensive zone. And that's important to highlight when we're talking about this. Also, technically, when you are closer to getting out, I believe you sit furthest from the door if you're watching, because you hop over the boards. The players returning are stepping in through the door. So the players furthest from the door and towards the center of the bench are the ones who are most likely going to be next line up onto the ice. I don't have any legitimate research basis there. That's just from my watching the game and my understanding. So I'm completely open to being wrong, but a little something to look at when you're watching the bench out there.
You might be totally right, and I might have just misheard him. I was like listening, but also trying to like type everything at the same time that he was talking to me. So yeah. But thank you, Coach Frank and Coach Dylan, for giving me my insights. Thank you to Dom for doing that additional research when I had no time to. So much appreciated there. And thank you to our viewer for submitting such a good question, because I learned a lot from it. And I hope you did too. I hope we answered your question. So I hope we were able to give you what you were looking for.
Well, I hope so too, Corey. And in fact, I asked a question of my own in case they didn't know, because you brought it up, but since a line is actually 3 offensive players, and I believe the spirit of the question was asking about the forwards, I did a little bit of research. So do you think we have the time to talk some defensive pairings?
How long do we have? Yeah, we can squeeze. Ooh. How
We
much
got
do you?
5 minutes?
Yeah, we have 5 minutes. We can do that.
Cool. So let's talk defense then, because fundamentally, this might seem obvious. We've talked about it before, but you want to pair a left-handed defenseman with a right-handed defenseman. It makes a natural pairing on the left and right side of the ice. But let's dive a little deeper, because fundamentally, and I think this might seem a little obvious to some, but your top defensive pairing are often going to be your most talented and reliable defensemen, but they also need to have the endurance to play the most minutes, the most ice time in any given game. Corey mentioned it. There are typically half as many defensemen on the bench as there are forwards. So if you average out all the time, the defensemen are going to be playing twice as often. Now, obviously, the first line is playing more than the fourth line, and the top pairing is playing more than the bottom pairing when it comes to actual individual playing time. But it's important to note that your top pairing is probably going to have the highest minutes, highest time on ice of any player for your team in any given game. It's pretty rare to not see a defenseman lead a team in minutes. But in any given pairing, you also mentioned this, Corey, is you might see a more offensively prone player with that stay-at-home, strong defensive player. And I think a good metaphor for this, right when we're in the thick of football season, is the difference between a free safety and a strong safety. The free safety plays further back, and his job is to make sure no one gets behind him. The strong safety, on the other hand, plays a bit further forward and has the option to dive into the play or drop back into coverage. Of course, this metaphor falls apart a little bit when you realize that the free safety actually is a leaner person, typically faster, and is going to be a little bit more agile and similar to an offensive defenseman. Picture Cale Makar. Whereas the strong safety, who sounds like this, or I say is jumping up in the play, right? That's actually what Cale Makar does, right? So my metaphor falls apart on itself a little bit there, but you get the idea. You want to pair someone who is going to be able to jump up into the play with someone who can be on the back end, like a Devon Taves, who is super reliable and can defend on their own if needed, when paired with a very skilled and fast offensive defenseman who can help get back if he is caught out of position. And then, of course, a final consideration when it comes to defensive pairings that we haven't brought up is simply experience. To support your youngest players in their NHL adjustment and development, you often pair them with one of your most experienced veteran defensemen. And this also goes for forwards too, but I'm just focusing in defensemen because it's easy to see with the 1-in-1. And using the Sharks for an example now, it would be, this is the pairing of Sam Dickinson and Vinny Desharnais. Desharnais is a longtime NHLer who's been around the league, moved around to a few different teams, and plays very big and physical. He's not the fastest guy out there, whereas Sam Dickinson is this young prospect with a lot of offensive prowess. So they're hitting the marks there, but also Vincent Desharnais is a guy who can teach Sam the ways to clean up his game because he has been around so long. He might not be the fastest defenseman, the best shot, the biggest defenseman. I mean, he's a pretty big dude, but there's a lot of wealth of knowledge that he can teach Sam, and he can also maybe anticipate Sam Dickinson's moves a little bit better. Of course, I do have to caveat this with, on the flip side, this combination of a rookie and an older or an aging veteran defenseman is often your bottom pairing, because the youthful inexperience and lack of NHL game pace endurance, when paired with that aging set of legs, can also become a weakness that when the opponent sustains puck possession. So strong pairing to teach a young player, but in limited doses so as not to cause a weakness for the team as a whole. Corey, did I keep it under 5 minutes?
Yes, you did. You were about at 4 minutes there, so we'll take it.
But anyway, thank you for letting me go on that side tangent, because as y'all know, I love to talk about defense.
Dom is very defensive. That's just who he is. Alrighty, everybody. Well, we will move right along to this week's games from a fan perspective. I promise we are not going to talk about Utah for a straight hour again. I have it a bit more orderly this time. So we'll get right into it, though, because I really want to talk about our divisional rankings. But first, we have the Avalanche at Columbus on October 16th. Oh, meant to say preemptively, the Avs went 2-0-1 this week, with Scott Wedgwood only letting in 1 goal per game, except in the loss to Utah. So another solid week by the Avs. Still don't have a regulation loss, so still technically undefeated. Not pointless in any game so far, which is why they are one of the teams on top of the NHL. So another good week by the boys. But Avs versus Columbus. This was Cale Makar's 400th game, and I am certainly feeling old because I remember game number 1. I was in my college dorm room, in fact, now that I'm thinking back on it. On a night in Calgary, right after Cale Makar had accepted the Hobie Baker, and on his first shift and first shot of an NHL game, he scored. Little did we know he would morph into not only the greatest defenseman of this era, but perhaps one of the greatest defensemen of all time. It feels appropriate that the game in question then was against Columbus, as he, Cale, made history last year against Columbus with goal number 30. And so it feels equally as appropriate that, subtle foreshadowing, he may have scored again today. But before we got there happened to be a wall in the way of Cale Makar and the rest of the Avalanche in the form of Elvis Merzlikins. Elvis was on absolute demon timing and was having the game of his life. There was a genuine concern from me that when the Jackets scored first in the game that the Avalanche were going to be screwed because of how incredibly locked in Elvis was. As a bit of a sidebar, whenever a goaltender is having a game like what Merzlikins was having, saving backdoor types, sliding across on the rush, making saves that on a normal day would get past the best goaltenders, the longer that goes on within the game, the stronger the goaltender becomes. Just like the icon of sin from Doom Eternal. Shout out if you get that reference. The Avalanche had some creative playmaking in the early goings, and throughout were able to take advantage of defensive lapses from Columbus to have a few breakaway opportunities, but they just couldn't convert thanks to Elvis's previously discussed heroics. Don't worry, we'll discuss them a few more times. But Scott Wedgwood, of course, couldn't be totally outdone and had to answer the call a few times, as the youth of the Blue Jackets are creative themselves. After talking about the second line last episode, they clearly listened to Complaint Corner because they were looking to strike early and often, but no one could solve anyone in the first period. Unfortunately, it didn't take long for the Blue Jackets to solve Scott Wedgwood for the one and only time to start off the second period. It was a fantastic setup where the Avs got caught in a bad turnover and lost their men in coverage, and it was an absolute monster shot to help Wedgwood hit his 1 goal allowed per game quota. The Avs should have had the first goal and are now playing from behind. They needed to pick up their pace from the first period again. What I had noticed early on in the period was just all-around sloppy puck play and Elvis once again stonewalling everyone. However, it was almost like 2 periods happened in one because the Avalanche turned it all around in the best possible way. And that's Cale Makar haunts the nightmares of the Columbus Blue Jackets. It was an incredible fucking shot from the blue line, just straight in. And this just made sense. Just like that, the Avs had flipped the game on its head. The Avs were doing a lot of passing and not enough shooting for my taste, which is so cringe to say, but there have been quite a few opportunities in every game this season where the puck carrier has a much better chance to score, but will choose to pass into coverage or into a teammate in much less advantageous position. Brent Burns, however, he wanted to shoot the puck. And boy, did he. Byrne finally got one for Nelson to tip in front. Or wait, nope. Burns finally got one to the net for Nelson to then perfectly tip in the puck. And the second line finally gets rewarded. Big Cock Brock finally gets rewarded. From there, the second line got going with more assistance from the defense as Sam Malinsky teased one up for Val Nichushkin to tip in right before the horn of the second intermission. If the Avs hadn't scored on Elvis at this point, they would have been in deep shit because Elvis is making, or was back to making those insane saves. It sounds dumb, quote, the Avs need to score, unquote, but with how dialed Elvis was, goalies only tend to get stronger the longer a shutout is going for, so they needed to crack him at least once. I'm reiterating this point to emphasize just how good Elvis Merce Lincoln's played in this game. His team and Weird Hands, though,
I
are
mean,
what
yeah.
are. You're here too. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, man, I keep losing you at the wrong times, but yeah, when a goalie's standing on his head, he doesn't typically stop standing on his head. It just gets flashier and flashier the longer the game goes on, like you were saying, Corey. So always fun to watch. But sorry, the timing was off there.
No, it's okay. That was just funny. But in case you didn't know what I mean when I've mentioned hands, there was a weird one. Columbus could have tied it off of a goal deflecting off of what seemed to be a player's chest, but apparently, according to the replay, it may have been a hand goal. It would be unfortunate if that had tied the game, as the Avs really had taken back momentum offensively at that point, and that's just not how you want it to get tied up, at least if you're an Avs fan. I did disagree with Mark Rycroft and Mark Mosier's homerism a little bit in that I do genuinely see how it could have been a goal. It's tough because the Blue Jackets jerseys were really dark along with their gloves, so it just wasn't conclusive, and because they called it no goal on the play, they were more likely to wave it off, and they did. So I could see how that one would have been a goal. And Riker does have the rule wrong. He likes to say if it goes off of the hand, it's not a goal, but it's if they close their hand over the puck. So to be fully honest, I don't know if I agree with this one getting called back, because even if it did just hit his hand, that's still just deflecting off of his body. I think it could have been a goal, but I'm not going to argue because it went in our favor. But it also seemed like Columbus challenged the play, but apparently they didn't, because they lost the challenge but didn't go down a player. So it was weird. Nothing about it was right. It was just weird. But in the third period, the Avalanche took care of business. Wedgwood got his opportunity to shine in this period with some solid saves. He did take a solid shot, though, up under the mask, and he looked like he was in some discomfort, but he finished the game without much issue. That's a little scary when you're already on your backup who's already been playing so great. Columbus somewhat slowed down this period, but the Avs just kept the correct amount of pressure on the gas pedal. The one power play chance the Avalanche got was unimpressive, but they were already up by 2. Brett Burns also literally shrugged off 2 Jackets players at the same time as he moved the puck up the ice. Then suddenly, Columbus really turned on the Jets in the final 3.5 minutes, and with the net empty. That kind of attitude makes you sweat a little bit. They pull the goalie, and it looks like they get one back late, but no, another hand-related incident. This one much more obvious than the first. It was absolutely a hand pass. You can't do that. So that was another called back one for the home team. And Columbus honestly got so cucked during this game with 2 greasy goals that were called back due to hand-related issues, which is weird that it happened twice. If I had a nickel for every time Columbus got a goal called back for a hand pass, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Okay, anyway. I think the Avs got a massive break with those in a game that they otherwise dominated. This is a very similar Columbus that we saw last year. Great on the road, hot ass at home. Solid win by the Avs, though. And just one rounding out point. One guy I'm shocked that didn't score in this game was Victor Olofsson, who was all over the place all night long. During the first period, he had 4 shots and was the only Av to have more than 1. He ended the game with 5, but just wanted to shout out his effort because it was very noticeable. Okay, Dom, I'm actually paused this time. You may speak.
Okay, yeah, I definitely delayed there, but glad to hear the Avalanche were able to pull out the win, come out on top. Definitely sounds like a sneaky upset type of game script where it could have gone poorly when you have a goaltender like that. So great to hear that the second line and the Avs offense in general was able to power through and get the goals when they needed them. And I mean, what more is there to say about Wedgstad? The man has just been a wall, stepping in, playing all these games, game after game, while Blackwood's been out and been doing a phenomenal job while doing so. So, wow. I mean, just just what a great play by him. What a huge difference. We've said it before, but having him makes for the Avs this season to be tied for the lead in the NHL in points at this point. Also, I kind of actually remember, as you were saying it at the very start, since it was in the dorms, I feel like I remember that was one of those times when you ran down the hall, or actually that was when we were next door neighbors, I imagine, and banging on my door like, he scored on his first shot of his first shift of his first NHL game. Oh my God. Like you unlocked like a core memory that was just buried in there, that it was just deja vu when you were talking about it. So I swear that had to have been a game that we talked about together before.
Oh yeah, I can absolutely see myself doing that. When I was saying it, I was like, I probably like banged on his door, on his wall or something, because it was awesome. Because I actually have a Snapchat memory of me recording my screen when it happened. It was pretty nutty, and I'm sure the rest of the quad heard me screaming too. But again, no one ever came and told me to shut the fuck up, so we'll roll with it. Speaking of rolling, next game, Avalanche versus the Boston Bruins on October 18th. For those who don't know, I don't like Boston. I've never liked Boston, especially after the incident. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, the very, very, very short version of that is there was a very drunk Boston fan at a game a few years ago, and it was both my least favorite and favorite game I've ever seen in my life, because the Avalanche had an absolutely incredible comeback win to rub it in the face of this Boston fan who would not shut the fuck up the entire night. But he also did not shut the fuck up the entire night. If I have more time one day, I will tell the story again. But my God, it was insane. So I don't like the Bruins, especially because there are a lot of Bruins fans who either travel or live here, but that's the case with all original six teams. They are always well represented at any hockey game, and this one was absolutely no different. And of course, my family was down on the Bruins attack twice, and so they were out there in force, to say the least. And boy, oh boy, they were loud with their attempts to try and get a "Let's Go Bruins" chant going. Thankfully, that didn't last long. But unfortunately, the Avalanche gave up a goal on their first shot with the easiest backdoor tip-in for John Beecher of all time. The Avalanche just lost their men. Charlie McAvoy threaded it across short side, from the short side to a wide open John Beecher, who just tapped it in without much effort. I mean, there was nothing Wedgwood could do. And you're just like, awesome. And throughout this first period, it was just rough. The Avalanche were giving up 2-on-1s with David Pastrnak, which is definitely something you don't want to do. And they were just giving the Bruins way too much ice and space and time with the puck to start. However, the Bruins then flipped the script on themselves as David Pastrnak, after a very hardworking play from Artturi Lehkonen, was stripped, and Artturi Lehkonen, from along the blue line, passes it in the neutral zone to a streaking Nathan MacKinnon to give him all the time and space in the world to execute. And you knew when Nathan MacKinnon was coming in on Jeremy Swayman, he wasn't going to miss. And my God, he did not miss. Absolute tuck master supreme. And funnily enough, both teams scored on their first shot. And that concerned me, that it was going to be that kind of game. And in case you don't know what I mean by that, it's that the game is going to be an absolute barn burner, which means that both teams are going to disregard defense and score a lot of goals. It did not end up being that, but it did seem that way when both teams score on their first shot. Martin Necas continues to be a zone entry wizard. He got himself and the puck through two Bruins at the blue line all by himself, and he made a pass to the slot to Lehkonen. It was great. However, later on in the first period, which I don't know if I mentioned, I was at this game, in case anybody was confused. Manson got his first of the season with assist from Burns, and Gabriel Landeskog, who I'm stupid and forgot to mention, got his first point on Valerian Shushkin's empty net goal in Columbus, but this was his first like real play action secondary assist. It was awesome. It was literally a design play Fucking Landeskog wins the face-off to Burns, to Manson, to the back of the net. And I mean, all of that happened because Brock Nelson just takes away Swayman's eyes. You can see it in the replay. He is directly in front of him. The screen was incredible, and he never saw it coming. 2 goals on 2 shots. But the Avs then had started to do a better job getting the puck active in the Bruins zone. They had a little bit of risky defense, but with the Bruins still being able to make good passes. The PK got to show out for the Avs. It was really solid. The Bruins had a couple dangerous chances, but the Avalanche PK also generated some going the other way, which is really kind of what you need. And it felt like the Avalanche were locking in offensively, but they needed to do more defensively. And boy, oh boy, just wait until we get further along in this game, because they must have saw me writing that. Also, in between periods, Bernie the mascot was Sabrina Carpenter. It was girls hockey night that night, so that was pretty awesome. Once again, hockey's for everyone. So if you want to try hockey, doesn't matter how you identify, what your sex is, go try hockey. Anyway, in the second period, the Avs came out with a lot.
Sorry. It was delayed trying to jump in. I was just going to take a quick moment here to shout out my sister, because if you recall, we actually were there last year when the Sharks game was on girls hockey night. So just shout out to you, Natalie. Love you, sis.
You're right. Yeah. Wait, when did we go to the Sharks game last year? Was it in November?
I think, no, it was in March. So I guess it's
weird.
Technically this year.
They did girls hockey night like way earlier this year. Huh. Interesting. Anyway, but yes, shout out your sister. She was very lovely. The Avs did come out with a lot more jump in the second period and were generating a lot more chances. Manson almost immediately scored. They're making Swayman work for it. And again, if not for him, this game would have gotten blown a lot more open. And it was pointed out to me, because I went to this game with Coach Dylan, that the Avalanche were doing a good job limiting the Bees, and they were controlling the neutral zone. The Bruins just couldn't get through, and the Avalanche would take it away and just push it right back up the ice into the Bruins' defensive zone, into their offensive zone. All lines were doing great work here, and there were unfortunately those still situations where the players should shoot rather than pass, but we've made a point on it. And so it was really funny because we have Gavin Brindley, who is very small, and the Bruins have Nikita Zadorov, who is very large, and they were next to each other at one point, and it looked like David versus Goliath. Now, the power play was kind of up and down all night. Eventually, they got a better opportunity here with Victor Olofsson getting a look on the top unit and Gavin Brindley getting a look on the second unit. The kid's earned everything he's got, but unfortunately, still no dice. There's improvements to be made here. Throughout the entire night, the Bruins dominated the Avalanche in the dot, which you would have thought would have been detrimental, and the only thing I think it really did for the Bruins was limit the number of scoring opportunities that the Avalanche got. But ultimately, the Avalanche's speed was just superior. Even if the Bruins got it out of their defensive zone, the Avalanche would just take it and speed it right back in. And not only did the offense continue to just hammer them, but the defense tightened up too. By the end of the second, the shots were 24-9 Avs. And by the end of the game, the Bruins had 14 shots. They only got 5 more shots at that point. That's it. And to the Bruins' credit defensively, what they had done very well the entire night was getting sticks in lanes and leaving the Avalanche with very little room to shoot. And that's where having to resort to those passes where they also get sticks in lanes. So credit to them right there. Now, Nathan MacKinnon scored the third goal, and it was so hard that it went in and out so fast that not even he knew it went in. Everyone on both teams just kind of stood there in stunned silence, and so did the crowd. There was you couldn't really tell on TV, but there was actually like a full second delay that puck goes in. Everybody's like, wait a fucking minute. Did he just score? Horn goes off. Everybody celebrates. The replay is genuinely so funny because this is an all-timer, honestly. Replay is so funny because it goes in and out, and you just see Nikita Zadorov just standing there, looking in utter defeat and utter shock, like, oh my God, that just went in. Anyway, the Nate and Arturi Lehkonen duo was just dynamic that night. I'm pretty sure Arturi Lehkonen assisted on almost every goal. And then later, not only do we get a crazy goal from McKinnon, but Scott Wedgwood, with grand larceny through a screen of his own man and a Boston player, made the shot, or made the save of the game on shot number 10. It was fantastic. I can't describe it well enough with my words. You'll just have to go and look at the replay. But otherwise, not too much else to comment on for the period other than the Avalanche were just in control. They simply skated the game at will. There were solid saves by Jeremy Swayman, good sticks by the Bruins defense. That's what kept the scoring from being higher. Also, Brett Burns still has really silky hands of an artisan. Thank you to my friend Alex, whose take I'm totally stealing because I agree with it. But it's two players that I think have been insanely good are Josh Manson and Valeri Nichushkin. Manson has looked way smarter this year, and Val's defensive game and forechecking are so good. Also, Solovyov was an insane pickup on waivers, very smart on the back end. Also, Malinsky, also. So much of this team seems to be clicking. The only problem is the power play, but the power play still looks like it's operating decently well most of the time. And the shots ended up being 38-14. So just utter domination of the Bruins, who normally give the Avalanche a hard time. So this was just very satisfying. Also, I want to say about the power play after the game, again, utter domination. And all I see in the comments are people of the YouTube interview with Jared Bednar is people bitching and fucking moaning about the power play. Motherfucker, this team was 5-0-1 by the time this game ended. You can't look past the fact that this team is firing on all cylinders. They are winning the games they should and competing at the highest level. And all you want to do is bitch about the power play? Yeah, we acknowledge that it needs work. It's game fucking 7. But this team is dominating right now, and that's what you want to perseverate? Fuck you. Anyway.
You what?
Asterix, different, very, very, very different type of game 7 right there. And I guess, can it be called all cylinders if they're down the power play? But I'm done being a little shit about it. I know what you mean. In the Avalanche, we're absolutely on one. 38-14 on the shot differential is insane. That type of shot differential, you shouldn't need a power play to score. You should already be scoring and winning by multiple goals.
But, I mean, you do need your power play to be operating. I acknowledge that. All right, let's wrap this up here. And that's the Avalanche at Utah yesterday, at least when we're recording this, on 10/21. I failed you, everyone. This was one of the few times where an event overlapped with my ability to watch hockey. I watched the first period, didn't see any of the second period, and listened to the third period. So I did not get the scope of this game that I wanted to. I'm very sorry. I was decompressing at a concert, and it just lined up with Avalanche hockey. And, of course, the game had to be at fucking 8 o'clock! So we will crowdsource hockey from the ether. I don't know if that actually got caught, but we're going to hope that hockey from the ether got caught. So anyway, basically what I heard from everybody is the Avalanche had poor puck management and a rough second period, which kind of seems to be the Avalanche's partial kryptonite. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But now that I'm thinking back on it, it really kind of isn't. So I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. But for this one, it was kind of a rough second period, and we'll get a little bit more into why here. But the Avalanche just seemed to have the wind taken out of their sails at certain points in this game. Martin Necas didn't look all that great. In fact, not really anybody was playing all that great. There was a lot of giveaways and turnovers and unforced errors. So the best word that I heard for it was sloppy. It was just a sloppy game by the Avalanche. But if you're telling me that this is their worst game of the season and they still walk away with a point, I'm not going to complain. And I think really, though, what ended up getting the wind taken out of their sails was the fact, and this is going to piss me the fuck off because I actually saw this. was the fact that their captain, Gabe Landeskog, finally gets his first regular season goal for the first time in 3 years, and the fuck-ass Utah Mammoth have the fucking audacity to challenge this play, and then Toronto and the refs get it wrong. I understand that we're not running a fucking charity. We're all trying to win the game. First of all, you couldn't just fucking let the man have it. 3 years, you couldn't let him have it. Second of all, this puck was not offside because Utah themselves put the puck back into the zone. And the argument from Toronto was, quote, Valeri Nichushkin's actions caused the Utah player to put the puck back into his zone. What the fuck does that mean? That is a nothing burger. You watch the replay at no point, and people are trying to say, well, you can clearly see at 1 minute and 34 seconds that Valeri Nichushkin touches the... No, the fuck he doesn't. And even if you think he does, that's the problem. You think he does, and if there's not conclusive evidence, you can't overturn the goal. And it was called a goal on the ice. You see the Utah player push the puck with his stick, and it isn't until after the puck crosses back into the Utah zone from the actions of the Utah player that Val Nichushkin makes stick-on-stick contact with this Utah player. Some people are trying to argue, well, there's still Avalanche players on the ice. Yeah, I know all about this situation because the Avalanche had a goal called back in Game 7 against the Sharks, round fucking 2, because Gabriel Landeskog apparently took too long to step off the ice. And so, that was the game-tying goal, mind you. And so they've changed the rule. I believe how it works is if a player is within a certain distance of the wall as they're intending to hop off, they are considered off the ice. So there's no too many men. They're still on the ice here. They are considered via the rules off the ice. And now, because Toronto got it wrong, they're just making shit up. It's not offsides. It's a good goal. Utah puts it back in themselves. Valeri Nichushkin has full right to then go and play that fucking puck, nor are any other Avalanche players in the fucking zone. It makes no sense. And they get it wrong. And everybody in the fucking NHL can never admit, you know what? We got it wrong. Nobody can ever fucking do it. And it's pathetic. And you're robbing players of fucking goals. And who knows? Would they have still lost this game? I don't fucking know. But it was a big turning point, and it could have caused that loss. And I'm just more pissed that Gabriel Landeskog got the goal taken away.
Well, the best conclusion I've come to from what you described is that we're 10 days before Halloween, and someone in Toronto got the blind ref costume out early. That's the best I can conclude, because you're absolutely right, Corey. If he put pressure, that's like saying you are to blame for making me feel some type of way.
I know.
You are responsible for your own actions and feelings. You hear the footsteps of Val Choo Choo right there about to come barreling through you, and you choose to move the puck and get away from where that is. That's your choice. And then he grabs it. Fine. That's some bullshit I don't even care from the Gabe Landeskog thing. And I know that's what you care about, Corey, and it matters a lot to you, and it's valid. And I'm sure a ton of other Avs fans feel the same way. But this is some horrible officiating. And the fact that the whole point of Toronto is supposed to be there to get things right. They are supposed to never get these things wrong. If Toronto is getting these things wrong, and it's not the first time this season, I think we need to have a serious look into this review process and make sure that they understand the rules and get them right, rather than just trying to get an answer quickly. Get the right answer. And sometimes the right answer is, well, the home team got their challenge wrong and are now going to be down a goal and a power play. And you can't be afraid to make that happen, because I'm just saying this happened in the Delta Center in Utah. Was there any bias there to make such a horrible call so that they feel safer leaving the building that night? I don't know. I'm just a conspiracy theorist over here.
Yeah, so it's some bullshit. Also, fuck Dave Jackson, the fucking rules specialist. Fuck you. I also heard that the ESPN announcing was just utterly terrible, that they dick whacked Utah pretty much the entire game. There was like this weird drone footage, like spinny drone footage that happened, and like people couldn't keep track of the actual game, and it was awful. And then apparently they had, I believe his name is Ryan Smith, owner of the Utah Mammoth. Apparently they interviewed him for almost the entire second period. Like, they talked through Gabe Landeskog's goal, through it getting overturned, and then for like additional time beyond that. At that point, it's like, dude, make it an intermission thing. Like, why are we having like a full-on like segment here with the owner? Like, it should be 5 minutes max, maybe. Then move on. We're calling a game. There is a game going on. If you want to talk to Ryan Smith, have him do his own like sit-down interview. Fuck this shit.
Sounds like Jerry Jones, honestly, and that's not someone you necessarily want to get compared to.
Ew. Don't say such things. Finally, and I'm going to let me see. Let me see if I can pull this up for you, Dom, because I need you to hear this, because it was pretty funny. From John Buchagras. He Oh wait, nope, that's not what I want. This wait, nope. Is it this? I think this is what I want. Yeah, we're gonna say this is it. An ad? Get out of here! I'm trying to host a podcast, you fucks! Leave me alone! Okay, well, fuck. Also, Martin Necas is the only Avs player with points in every single game this year. Every goal is another $1 million onto that contract. Yep, okay, yep, this is exactly what I want. Alrighty, Dom. Alright, here we go.
I'm here with you. I'm along for the ride.
I know. Just let me know when you're watching the stream.
Well, now I'm watching 2 dancing purple squares.
Why you? Oh, it's
okay.
It's
here
loading.
We go.
Okay, so
it was the loading thing. I just named it.
Just listen to John Buchagras here. They want Wedgwood to what? they want him to what? Now listen here. John Buchagras does a little coming himself.
I mean, that nature shot was insane.
I mean, it is nasty. Like, don't get me wrong, but like,
bro, announcers get away with saying the most like unintentionally unintentional. They say some out of pocket shit. Like, I'm just waiting for the time when we've recorded enough episodes that you or I have said something stupid by accident without even realizing it.
What do you mean? We do that shit on purpose. What are you talking about? We say stupid stuff on purpose.
Well, sure, we say plenty of stupid stuff on purpose, but my on purpose jokes always have a painful ring of dad joke in the ear compared to that stuff, which you just can't help but laugh because if it's intentional, they just slip it in there. But man managed to talk about, or just say comes twice in one sentence before actually doing so. So hey,
he wants what? He wants Wedgwood to come. Anyway,
yeah, I mean he's getting paid to talk about the Avs on a game to game basis. So I can't fault him. I can only be jealous.
Anyway, we're gonna check in on our preseason divisional rankings now because this is gonna be fun.
Boy.
I'm looking forward to this. We thought, since every other publication is doing way too early overreactions to the first 2 weeks of play, that we should do it in our own special ways. So we're going to take a look back at our incredibly accurate and correct preseason divisional rankings and see how they have been or have maintained being incredibly accurate and correct while everyone else has been overreacting. Ours are truly 100% serious and reasonable reactions. With 6 to 7 games under our belts at this point, we clearly know how the rest of the season is going to play out without fail. So let's compare and contrast 9th grade English style. Also, make sure to tell us how you would have ranked each team and tell us what we should be thinking at this exact moment in time after combing through the standings. So we'll start with the Atlantic. The Tampa Bay Lightning are ass. What the fuck? I picked you fuckers to win the division, and all you can give me is 1 win and 2 OT losses? What is happening? I don't understand. This makes no sense. Like, I get they're getting old and slow, but there is no way they are 1-3-2 type of fucking bad. I don't believe it. They have to pull themselves out of this hole. Like, not only that, but Detroit is on top of the division with the Habs. The Habs are in second. I told you. I told you. The Maple Leafs are in third.
I told you.
Or the Maple Leafs are in fourth. No, I said the Habs would be second. I have it right here. Well, you also said it. Okay.
We did both say it. I was just trying to be a...
Somehow, Buffalo has won. I don't think it's updated for tonight, but they beat Detroit tonight. Maybe it's updated. I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, fuck, Buffalo only has a -1 goal differential right now. Detroit's on top. Ottawa's at the fucking bottom. Ottawa is weird. And here's kind of where I disagree, where somebody said we shouldn't be too worried about their defensive struggles right now. But I think we should be, because we're seeing this pattern develop really early on that they're trying to win every game 6-5. And it isn't working, because not only are they not able to keep the puck out of their own end, but then Linus Ullmark is not there to backstop them. So, while offensively they have been really good, it's just I'm a little worried for them here, where it feels like they finally were starting to move in the right direction, and maybe that's just missing some players here that's really hurting them, especially missing their captain, but it's a little concerning. Also, Boston started out 3-0 and now have lost 5 straight.
Yeah, I mean, Boston winning the first 3 games, I think, was the bigger surprise than losing 5 straight, considering we had them in Buffalo down, or at least I did, as the bottom 2 teams in the Atlantic. But yeah, Detroit, the biggest one I got wrong, had them projected to finish 6th, and here they are sitting at number 1. The Iser plan finally coming together for fans. And we'll see if it lasts, but, they're at least having a moment out there in Detroit. I am going to be at like a 6 on the panic meter with Ottawa, though, because of what you mentioned with the injuries. Yes, their offense is clicking, but if you're losing games with that many goals, like you said, that is a serious concern. And there's no clear answer of how that's going to get better, especially with the number of injuries, the severity of those injuries, and who is impacted by those. They're going to be behind and have to play catch up. And if they can't keep pucks out of their own net, they're never going to be able to catch back up.
Yeah. So, I mean, my assessment right now with kind of this mix up at the top here is the Atlantic is kind of wide open. And I mean, Detroit's interesting because they get very streaky. Like they were blown out their first game and now they've been really good. They just lost to Buffalo tonight, but I mean, they've been solid throughout this first kind of set of games here. However, like I said, the Atlantic's wide open right now. Like, Florida was down near the bottom of the division not too long ago, but now they've picked up a couple wins, so now they're back in third. The Maple Leafs seem like they're struggling immensely offensively. I mean, they have the same goal differential as Buffalo right now, which is not necessarily company you want to be keeping, and yet somehow the Panthers are ahead with a -4. Like, some weird shit's happening in the Atlantic right now. All I can say is I hope the Habs come out of it well. I like the Canadians. They are my East team through and through this year and going forward. I like their players. I like this team. I hope the Habs do well. And they're literally sitting exactly where I predicted them, and they are literally the only team who is sitting exactly where I predicted them for now. So thank you, Montreal.
When you say the only team, are you keeping that limited to the Atlantic, or out of 32, the Atlantic, that was the only one?
Keeping it limited to the Atlantic.
Okay, because, yeah, we're actually in the same spot on Montreal. I think Detroit's the big surprise, although I don't know if Detroit got better or if just the Atlantic got a lot worse, because I don't think anybody expected Tampa Bay to be this bad. I know you and I had Florida and Tampa flipped with the 1 and the 5, and I put Florida at 1, and you had Tampa at 1, and so I guess to see Tampa slow down, but this drop off has been absolutely astonishingly bad. So,
Man, but you know,
maybe, I mean,
but I mean, the Avs also
no, you go
started
for it.
bad the Avs also started bad last year, right? And I mean, the Avs started bad the year they won the Cup, so it's like, and then they won the division. So I mean, they're 7 games in. There's so much time for Tampa to like turn this around, but we'll, for the sake of time, we'll keep moving. But I will be watching them with great interest.
Certainly. And I think the only thing I would say is as we transition here to the Metropolitan is I think that, I mean, as much as the Atlantic looks like they took a dip, it feels like every team in the Metro has just elevated or maybe even overperformed a little bit apart, save for a couple.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Well, let's talk about it. First and foremost, the New York Islanders and Columbus Blue Jackets are ass. I hate to say that for Columbus because I love them, but I do think there's still a chance here. And the fact that the lowest amount of wins in the Metropolitan is 3 is still pretty impressive through 7 games. But I mean, you have 3 teams here, each with 3 wins. So it's kind of mushy here. And then you have 3 teams with 5 wins. And then obviously New Jersey with 6 because they've played one more game here than Carolina. But just kind of an interesting situation going on here in the Metropolitan. Dom, are the Penguins good? What's happening?
Well, I mean, I'll talk about it in the tank. I don't know. Like the Sharks had in the past week, their best game came against the Penguins. They lost, but still their best game, they were evenly matched up with the Penguins. So actually maybe it wasn't their best game. I might have to be correcting myself on that one now that I'm thinking about it. But they still played a good game against the Penguins. So I don't know, man. It's an enigma. I know that I predicted Washington right sitting at number 4, and Carolina and New Jersey are flipped, but we knew those top 2 were going to be a head and shoulders away from the rest of the pack. So really where I went horribly wrong here is with my Columbus take. They're not my Eastern team, if you will. I don't know what my Eastern team would be, but I've certainly adopted them over the course of this podcast and have been rooting for them, wanting to see their success. And I do still believe in the young talent they have. So I'm hoping they bounce back. But right now, that take of mine is not at all aging well.
Like, I don't have the position. Oh, no, wait. Do I have one? No, I have the position of no one right at the moment. But I mean, I'm kind of in the right ballpark with the top here, and we'll see how it shapes out. Obviously, Carolina finally took their first regulation loss against Vegas, which is good for us as Colorado fans because we play them tomorrow, and we're hoping we can keep that loss momentum going. So let's go, boys. Hopefully you're listening to this in the morning before we play Carolina, because if you're listening to it after, well, we'll see how you feel, and we'll see how I feel, because I don't know yet, but I mean, this is about, like, the people who are at the top is about, like, what I thought, except obviously the anomaly that is the Pittsburgh Penguins, who apparently don't want to get rid of Sidney Crosby or Geno Malkin and don't want Gavin McKenna. I don't know what Kyle Dubas is doing over there. So just weird stuff. I don't get it.
Hey, I mean, honestly, McKenna to the Sharks sounds great to me.
Yeah, doesn't hurt my feelings. Well, jumping right over to the Pacific Division, the Calgary Flames are ass. So no surprise there. The Calgary Flames, I agree with the take that they overachieved last season. And I heard somebody say before the game tonight, which I'm still watching right now, that, you know, this is a team that isn't as bad as they've looked on the ice. It's like, no, they're that bad. Don't try and pretend like they're not. This team can't score. They have a minus 15 goal differential, which, quickly scrolling here, is the worst in the league. They can't get any offense going. Dustin Wolf, bless his fucking sweet baby heart, is having a fucking rough start to the year. The Flames are on 6 straight losses. They just tied it up with fucking Montreal, so they can only hope that they managed to get a point out of this so they could pull ahead of the Sharks, who at least have fucking 2 points here as well. So the Flames fucking suck. Vegas is at the top just like we thought. Anaheim is creeping just like I thought. Where did I put them? Third? Yeah, I put them third. So they're in fourth right now. So there's a chance here. The Kings are falling off. Edmonton's sucking pain at the moment. And Seattle is somehow in third. Nothing makes sense anymore. And for some reason, Seattle fans are like, we're good now. No, you're not, brother. No, you are not.
You know, there's only one team in the Pacific Division with a positive goal differential.
You're right. Oh my God. That's insane. Weakest division once again.
Yeah, but my turn to run through this. I almost put San Jose in 6 over Calgary because I did not believe Calgary this year. I guess I should have put Calgary at number 8, where I put Seattle, because even if they're not good, they're better than the other shit in the division. I'm surprised to see them ahead of Anaheim. Happy to see, or I don't know if I'm happy to see, but Vancouver at number 2 doesn't surprise me. I felt like this was a possibility in a battle of shit. I think they've got a lot.
No.
Or dropping off is not surprising.
We lost you for a second.
Did I lose you?
No, I lost you.
Oh no!
No, it's okay. We had your thing. Well, my thing with Vancouver is I just saw a graphic that they have a bunch of top players injured right now. So I unfortunately anticipate a slide for them upcoming here, despite the fact that Thatcher Demko has looked really good early on. I already didn't think they had a lot of firepower for that team, and now it's absolutely just decimated, which I never think is fair. I don't think your season should be trashed because of injuries.
And I agree, but we'll see how long their players are out with those injuries, because in a division that's a battle of shit, like, what the hell happened to Edmonton? That's the one that I like. Seattle is the mover up that I can't reckon with or make sense of. And Edmonton similarly is the mover down the standings that caught me by surprise. Like, I can't find any reason why Edmonton should be in 5th right now. Like, do they have injuries that I'm just missing and not paying attention to? Because I don't see why this team should be where it is. I mean, they lost to Calgary, for crying out loud.
Yeah, Edmonton's one of those teams that I won't count them out until they are officially eliminated from the playoffs, which I can't see it happening. Like two straight Stanley Cup final appearances, and now all of a sudden you're going to fall off the face of the earth. I mean, in all fairness, Montreal made the finals and then missed the playoffs the next year. So I mean, anything's possible, but I don't believe it. But I mean, their goaltending situation has once again been really, really bad this year. So who knows? Maybe it's finally catching up.
Yeah, and the hangover, right? Playing 2 long seasons, going all the way to the Stanley Cup. I mean, that, we talk about it, and somehow Florida has managed to continue performing even with a 3rd trip beforehand. But it affects these teams, it affects these players, especially when you're on that losing side. You don't have the extra boost in just in morale. So maybe we're seeing a bit of that hangover.
Yeah, perhaps so. Well, for the Pacific, the only thing I have right are the Knights in 1st, and the Ducks are almost in 3rd, so I'll consider that a win. And the Flames are even lower than I thought they would be. Oh, I do have the Sharks right. The Sharks are at 7, so let's go. Got that too.
Hey, we got the same things right, and Anaheim off by 1, and I will accept Vancouver as a small victory since I was higher on them than the average.
So there you go. Finally, on to the Central. Oh, man. The Nashville Predators, and I cannot believe these words are about to come out of my mouth, and Dallas Stars are ass! Like, what? Like I said, I will not count out the Dallas Stars until there is a fucking disqualified next to their name, fucking E next to their name, eliminated. Isn't that what it is? It's an E. When you're eliminated, you get an E.
Yeah, lowercase e.
Yeah, so when I won't discount it till there's an E. Like, I think they're just, I just think they're having a slow start. They're going to be fine. Technically, they're still at 500. The Central just is like insane right now because in some divisions, three wins get you fucking fourth place in a wild card spot. Fuck, man. 3 wins in the Pacific gets you the 3rd place. But in the Central, 3 wins get you 7th, and you are tied with Nashville. So that's fucking craziness. I genuinely cannot believe that. Like, I cannot remember the last time the Dallas Stars had a start this slow. Not only that, but Utah is tied with Winnipeg on a 4-game win streak with 10 points, and Chicago is in a wild card position with a positive goal differential. My God. And also, the Avalanche are in first. Feels good. Is this what it's like? Is this what it's like to have a team that starts off the season good and doesn't have to play catch up? Oh, it feels so nice.
Yeah, I mean, the Avalanche have looked, with all this goes back to the complaints about the power play. They have looked to be the most complete team, or one of the most complete teams in the league. There's a lot of a jumble going on in the Central like we expected. I don't think we expected Chicago to be like this, and Nashville in the first week of the season just shot up to the top, and now they've regressed back to where we expected. But Dallas is the real surprise. I expect them to bounce back. I think Utah has overperformed our expectations, but it's not surprising either because the warning signs, the potential was always there. But you made fun of me a little bit about it, Corey, so I got to bring it up. I got Minnesota exactly right, firmly in 6th. So, and for the record, I just checked based on the breakdown of wins, losses, ties, and everything on points. Dallas would still be only 6th in the Pacific. The bottom of the barrel, shitty Pacific, they would still be only 6th place right now. And as a last little point, while I'm looking at all the numbers right in front of me, I talked about how only one team in the Pacific has a positive goal differential. I wasn't kidding when I said the Metro's like really good this year because only one team in the Metro has a negative goal differential.
Fuck, you're right, man. Everybody's playing really well. So credit where credit is due. But yep, got the Avalanche right in first place. Winnipeg is 1 away from where I thought they would be. The Blues are 1 away from where I thought they would be. The Predators are pretty much exactly where I thought they would be. I'm just, again, like in solid bewilderment of the Dallas Stars. So when I say that they're ass, I mean that with some amount of sarcasm here because I hate them, but like there is genuinely in my mind no chance that this team still continues to float near the bottom of the division for the rest of the fucking year. Like they're too good for this to happen. And if they do, it would be genuinely unprecedented. Like I can't see it happening. And if you want to know my honest take about what's going wrong right now, it's that their defense is just bad. Like, it's just not that good right now. Their defense, their decor is just not that great. Not to say that their top pairing isn't great. Like, it's Heiskanen and Harley. Like, they're great. Those two are great. It's after them where you start to run into an issue. And so, yeah. And teams are also, like, coming back against them. They're having a hard time closing out games right now. So, yeah, credit. Yeah, okay. We're moving on now.
Yeah, I hope they get just a tiny bit better because if not, we're going to have to hear all about how firing Pete DeBoer was a mistake, and I don't want to hear about that. Yeah, that's going to be
so funny, dude. What do you mean? That's going to be hilarious. I absolutely want to hear that shit.
I don't want to hear about Pete DeBoer, period. Granted, he's coached for my team before, so maybe we'll just have to disagree on this one because different traumas here.
Very true. But that was fun. Everybody, let us know how your predictions are doing right now, 2 weeks into the season with only 7 games played and 75 more to go. Because this is absolutely how the league's going to look at the end of the season. It's not. Anyway, it's time for In the Tank with Dom.
Yeah, and I've taken us on some side tangents today, so I will try to be efficient with my words here in the tank. Let's start with some news, and unfortunately, not the best news because injuries. Timothy Liljegren was placed on injured reserve on the 16th of October, leading the Sharks to actually claim Vincent Iorio off waivers in a corresponding transaction. I believe he was waived by the Washington Capitals. Corey can potentially check me on that while I talk through some other injuries because Shakir Mukmadulin
Wait.
was
Who
also
am I
placed.
checking? Say that one more time.
Vincent Iorio, Iorio.
Yeah, sure, we got that.
Think
Go on, carry on.
Yeah, I think he played for the Caps, I think. But Shakir Mukmadulin was also placed on injured reserve on Sunday, the 19th. So on the 19th, the Sharks chose to recall Luca Cagnoni up from the San Jose Barracuda, while John Klingberg, another defenseman, is also out day-to-day with a lower body injury. So while the Sharks have 8 defensemen signed or had 8 defensemen signed to the active roster, and we're always scratching at least one of them, they have 3 guys on IR now. So they've really been hit with the injury bug in the span of just a week, all on the defensive side of the ice, unfortunately. And in yet another move, the Sharks traded recently acquired and former Avalanche player Oscar Olason to the Minnesota Wild, I believe, in exchange for another defenseman, Kyle Masters, just to help in that pipeline in case of any further injuries.
Yeah, I feel bad for Olausen. He just keeps getting shifted around. He just didn't pan out how he was supposed to. So it's rough for him.
Yeah, it's certainly unfortunate. And if he was assigned to the AHL roster as well, so just to help fill in with the shifting up of some other players. What this means, though, really is that Sam Dickinson he's getting more playing time, and that's not a bad thing. So that's the silver lining of all these defensive injuries, but not ideal, certainly. But on to the game news for the Sharks because there have been 3 games to cover, and the Sharks last night played their first of 4 games in 6 days. So I will be busy the next couple of days. They back-to-back starting when you hear this tomorrow on the 23rd, but with the Sharks playing at the Rangers at Madison Square Garden, and then the next night playing at the Devils before finishing out their road trip, where they're at least busy their road trip at Minnesota. So but in the past week, they started by playing at the Utah Mammoth themselves. So Utah just keeps popping up in our feed. I don't know why, Corey. It's almost like we were super high on them and the internet was listening.
Yeah, they must have been.
But
now I'm regretting being high on them because I did not enjoy them beating us.
Yeah, and we're in the same boat here because I'm regretting it personally, and that's what I was about to say too. Because Utah dominated possession and shots in the first period of this game against the Sharks, and basically after logging 0 shots on goal in the entire third period of the previous game at home versus Carolina, the Sharks continued to be outshot by their opponent in this game. They didn't even register their first shot on goal until after the midway point of the first period. Corey, absolutely awful, abysmal start to the game for the Sharks offense against Utah. Nick Schmaltz, who sounds like, it sounds like schmuck and putz merged together, which makes it a really fun name to say. And I hate that I'm having to say that he scored 2 goals in less than 4 minutes of play during the first period, the first of which came on a 5-on-3 power play for Utah. So not only could the Sharks not get the puck on net, they couldn't keep it out of theirs either because they were too busy taking penalties. And Schmaltz's second goal of the period came off of another, and I do mean another, defensive zone turnover by the Sharks. It's been a recurring problem this season, and unfortunately, I just don't know how exactly it's going to get better. You just got to get better by holding onto the puck, passing, like looking where you're passing. I don't know, man. There's no explanation for those type of turnovers behind your own net into the slot in front of your goaltender. That's just like the worst crime that a defenseman can make with the puck in his own zone. So frustrating, irritating. The Sharks did, however, start to put up some more resistance late in the period and tried to carry some of that feisty energy into the second. And it was actually on the Sharks' first power play opportunity of the night. Orlov fired it from the point on net, and Vejmelka did make the save, but coughed up a rebound that Toffoli was right there on the doorstep to put home into the open net. And that momentum definitely it felt like things were starting to pull a little bit more in the Sharks' favor, because less than 2 minutes later, and again, this is in the second period, Celebrini won a pack. He won a pack.
He
but
won
he
a
won
pack?
a puck
What was
battle.
it a pack of? Was it Pokemon cards? Magic the Gathering? What?
If it's me talking, it would have been Magic the Gathering for sure. But I do still have an archive and plenty of old Pokemon cards.
I'm stupid. Why didn't I say hockey cards? It would have been hockey cards. What am I doing, Dom? What are we doing here?
I'm into cigarettes, so that was the other way you could have taken. But anyway, where was I? Oh, Celebrini being physical, winning a puck battle along the boards. Match. It was in the offensive zone, and he was able to get the puck down to Skinner in the corner. And folks, this just in, our producer is now telling me that we have a keeper goal, because it was Skinner swinging a backhand pass across, attempting to connect it back with Celebrini on the far post, but the puck redirects off of not one but two Mammoth players and past the helpless Vejmelka. Celebrini was right there, but never actually made contact with the puck, so it was confirmed as Skinner's goal to tie the game at 2 apiece. And the momentum certainly seemed to be with the Sharks as the shot differential continued to shrink. But of course, Corey, now that we've injected some positivity and hope that the Sharks would win this game, before I get back to our regularly scheduled programming, would you like to say anything about the positives?
No, I'll let you take it, because I didn't watch your games, unfortunately, so I'm a little behind the 8 ball.
Well, I unfortunately wasn't able to watch this game either, but I did have it saved through streaming, so I was able to rewatch it after the fact later on in the weekend. So wish I hadn't, honestly, because it did not go well for most of this game. But I watched my team fall flat on their face because, just when we feel like the momentum's on our side, it goes away. And sometimes inexplicably, sometimes very easy to explain, because with a few minutes remaining in the second period, Askarov went behind his net to play the puck, which just always gives me anxiety when goalies do it. I know it's part of the game, but I hate it. It stresses me the fuck out. And, simply put, the puck took a slightly odd bounce off the boards, or he just wasn't paying enough attention, and it went off of his skate. So when he went to play it and make a routine play, well, it wasn't a routine play. The only thing routine about it was the Sharks this season having that ability to make me miserable with these untimely mistakes. That was about the only thing routine, because the puck skips off of his skate right to the hard-charging Liam O'Brien, who then turns around, pulls a 180, and puts it into the net with his backhand to give Utah a 3-2 lead. And Corey, as you know, on to the third period means that it's totally up from here, and it's going to get so much better. And if you're a Utah fan, yes, it was, because Nick Schmaltz made it a hat trick with another Utah goal less than a minute into the third period off a centering pass, once again from behind the net. Either Utah's centering it or the Sharks are centering it. Somehow, of these 6 goals that Utah scored, skipping ahead a little bit, I think 4 of them came from behind the Sharks net and then into the net, which really makes it hard for Askarov to be able to make a play. I have a shot at it, or let alone make a save. Because, like I said, Utah did not take their foot off the gas. They scored 2 more goals in the third to make it 6-2. And like the leader that he is, Celebrini did try to raise the Sharks' spirits, with this time being a late power play score in the third period. actually, Corey, his first goal of the season. So took a little bit. He still had a bunch of points, averaging a point per game. But his first goal of the season off a wicked wrist shot in the slot while capitalizing on a screen by Wenberg in front. But at the end of the day, the Sharks allowed Utah to score 6 goals off of 34 shots on goal. That's bad. 34 shots on goal still feels like too much. It's something where the defensive breakdowns and turnovers were responsible for most of Utah's goals, but Askey was still inconsistent, responsible for that one turnover himself. And he made some great saves in this game. It could have been worse, but it also could have been better because he let 6 by, and that's simply too many. So I guess on the bright side for this game against Utah, the Sharks power play went 2 for 3 in the game while holding Utah to score on only one of their 4 opportunities, which of course was a 5-on-3 goal. So both the PK and the power play seemingly doing better in this game when the 5-on-5 play was abysmal.
Well, this Celebrini kid sounds like a bust. Took him that long to get 1 goal. What a loser. Your goalies need to stay in their net. Like, let's be so for real right now. Every time either Askarov or Nedeljkovic has left the net, only bad things have happened. They need to quit playing the puck behind their net. They need to quit coming out to the blue line. They just need to fucking stay home. Stay home.
Yeah, they need a message from Happy Gilmore about that because they clearly have forgotten. And now, everyone who didn't know before this season, now you know why goalies playing the puck gives me so much anxiety. I have PTSD and real-time stress disorder. Let's RTSD, we'll call it, because at some point I'm going to become numb to it because it's happening so regularly. And at that point, send help because I'm just not even going to. I will be here bringing you all the notes and still finding some silver linings for the Sharks team because call me an idiot, I'm still hopeful. But let me get through these games and reasons to maybe not be so hopeful first so that then I can say that and not.
Don't say.
Did you lose my audio again?
No, I'm saying no. You should be hopeful. Don't ever give up, Dom.
Okay.
They're gonna win this next game. Who do they play next? I'm sure it's some fucking bum ass team. Who do they play next? The Rangers? Fuck,
At
dude.
The Rangers.
The Rangers can't score at home, dude. You guys can beat them. You're gonna win. You're gonna win tomorrow. The boys are getting their first W tomorrow. I believe in them. It's happening. I'm manifesting it.
I really hope so. Well, thank you for manifesting it. I'm sure doing my best. But the Sharks, Corey, it's funny you say that about getting their first win because they are the first team in Major League Sports history, the NHL, NBA, NFL, and MLB, first time ever, first team to be winless after at least the first 5 games of the season to start 4 consecutive seasons.
They're going to be good. They're going to be good. They're going to be so good in the future. They're going to be so good. It's just not right now. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Listen, at least we're not Buffalo or we're not the Jets in football, so it could certainly be worse, but setting a record for a losing stat, never what you want to do. And in this game, the next game I'm talking about came on Saturday, the 18th, the back end of that back-to-back with the Utah game that was on Friday, the 17th. And somehow the Sharks actually played much better on this second leg. And maybe that's because they were at home. Maybe it's because Pittsburgh isn't as good as Utah, but that would just be conjecture. Because despite having to travel the same night as the tough loss to Utah, they did play a lot better this game. They did start a lot quicker. And really, at the end of the day in this game against Pittsburgh, it was the goalies who were the story and the biggest stars of this game. So after giving Ned and Askarov as well a hard time, well, both Nedeljkovic and Tristan Jarry for the Penguins actually made some great save on multiple sudden opportunities and chances that came from sloppy play and turnovers. Those real heroic saves that you don't expect to happen. And Ned certainly played with that revenge game fire. He made 24 saves on 26 shots faced. And I'm going to be honest, the two he let in, I don't think he really had a shot on, and he saved a lot of ones that probably should have gone in. So uh, I've complained, I have made fun of, I have critiqued Nedeljkovic, but
Rightfully
I think
so.
he
I
really
just like to
played.
say, rightfully so.
Yeah. Well, rightfully so, and that's also why I want to give the man his due here, because he played a great game. He gave up only 2 goals. This was a winnable game for the Sharks if they could have scored. He did his part this game and was the best player in teal. So if I'm going to be honest and rightfully give him his critiques, I also want to give him his flowers when he does well. Um, and let's just go through it quickly because I did not watch this game back, unfortunately. I only saw the highlights for this one. Did not have a recording saved for it, unfortunately. So I had to look into that and fix that. But the first period was back and forth with the teams seemingly very evenly matched. Neither Tendy let the puck by. Neither Tendy really felt like giving in. It felt like a battle of wits between 2 goaltenders. And it took the great Sidney Crosby to eventually open the scoring in the second period with a great, and I mean a great redirect goal. Absolutely 0 shot to net and net. Corey, did you see that redirect?
I actually did not, unfortunately. I did hear that Crosby scored, though.
Well, imagine puck fired low, just above pad level, and Crosby times it perfectly with his stick coming from low to high. It ends up going top shelf corner while Ned has his glove just above his pad. So, like,
and I mean,
the pristine, perfect redirect.
That's just what comes with experience. Like, Sidney Crosby can do that because he's Sidney Crosby. Like, he does that because he's been playing for 1,000 fucking years. So yeah, there are very few players who can execute it like Sidney Crosby does. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's how good Ned was playing in this game, that's what it took to get one by him. And the game continued to be very evenly matched with chances and rush opportunities back and forth. But eventually it was the Pens who scored again off a rush when they caught the Sharks out of position. Celebrini was sliding to the outside to cover for a defenseman out of position, and he was actually trying to cover Brazeau, who quickly and honestly quite smoothly, to be honest, it was a smooth cut. It made Celebrini's ankles look broken. He cut back inside and basically set up an artificial 2-on-1, made a feed across to fellow Penguin Mantha for the goal, which, by the way, the name Mantha feels like a different candidate for a woolly mammoth mascot. I know they already have one, but I don't know. Mantha sounds like a mammoth to
Feels
me.
like a villain. Sounds like a superhero-like villain.
A super mammoth. We have the crossover.
I don't know, just like, it's my arch nemesis Mantha. Like that, I don't know. Just that's how it sounds to me.
Oh, okay. I see you. I see you. I'm with it. And just skipping ahead, like I don't have a lot of specifics from this game. It was a lot of good goaltending. There were turnovers. There was some choppy bits of play, but there were some really great offensive chances that the goalies just said no. So we're just going to jump to late in game when the goalie was pulled and the Penguins' Connor Dewar fired a shot at the empty net from center ice that went just wide and stayed along the boards. I bring this up because when Dewar followed his own miss, he was the first one to get there, but was absolutely crunched into the boards by Celebrini. And for all the skill that MacLeod has, I feel like I've made it clear, but I always really enjoy watching him play and lay a good hard hit. It's clean, but leaves the mark for sure. Because Dewar knew the hit was coming. He saw it and tried to make a play. He actually made a play. He threw a backhand shot that went just off the post, right as Celebrini was making contact. I mean, it wasn't boarding, but I tell you, Corey, it was on 10% on the right side of the line where it wasn't a penalty, but you know it was a physical hard hit when you're crunched up against the boards like that and even would remotely look like a boarding.
Yes.
But thankfully that puck did not actually go in the net. So the 6-on-5 continued, although the Penguins did eventually score an empty netter with less than 30 seconds remaining. Sidney Crosby can't score a goal and leave Malkin out. So it was Evgeny who tallied the final goal to make The eventual score: Pittsburgh 3, San Jose 0. And it's tough getting blanked in this game because the Sharks offense had a lot of great chances early on. It really felt like they had the 3 goals that should have been on the board at different points, and losing 3-0. And the offense just, you finally got a good game of goaltending, and the offense couldn't put the puck in the net. It's just really disappointing for that reason. Like, Corey, if it's not one thing, it's the other. And you finally get that dependability in net, and they squandered it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was gonna say. Is it feels like with the Sharks right now. Here, we'll say this: the difference between the Avs and the Sharks is obviously minus the power play. For the Avs, everything is working in tandem at the same time. The problem for the Sharks is they have not yet figured out how to get everything working in tandem at the same time. Some nights this works, sometimes, or some nights this other thing works. But unfortunately, or some nights defense works, some nights offense works, some nights goaltending works. Unfortunately for them, they have not yet figured out a way to get all of those things working in the same night.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. And then obviously with finishing games having been tough. So when now you've introduced the problem of they can't start games, like some games they've started red hot, can't finish them. Other games they've started absolutely slow as snails, and then they bounce back in the second and take advantage of the long change, and then still can't finish them. So no matter what, it seems they can't finish games, whether they start good or bad. So who knows? But all I know is that the next game from on Tuesday, the 21st at the Islanders, the first one on this big East Coast road trip. Um, you know, I actually could watch this one start to finish, Corey. And the Sharks really started the game with their hair on fire. So slow start against the Mammoth, pretty balanced back and forth start against the Penguins. They were picking it up in the first period here this week. It was just getting a little bit better each time. They were flying around the ice, having a lot of early chances and a very rare but a very positive shot on goal differential. And the continuous pressure and movement culminated in a shorthanded goal to give the Sharks a 1-0 lead midway through the first period. It was Colin Graff who got the shorty. A lot of great effort on the play, which was also his first goal of the season. And like I said, Graffer displayed great effort in the neutral zone and instincts to just jump into the play and drive the net. And credit to Ty Dellandrea, because it was a beautiful feed pass right to where Graf needed it on his stick. Dellandrea was right up there. The two of them have been really solid on the penalty kill. And I mean, just another shout out to Ty Dellandrea, because he's been playing very consistently. With all the inconsistency, Dellandrea has felt like one of those consistent, reliable bottom six pieces. You know what you're going to get, but he's always showing up for the Sharks, which with everything going wrong all over the place, one thing's fixed, the next thing's broken. Having even those smallest bits of consistency are huge, Corey, which I imagine you would agree based on your previous statement.
I mean, always. That's the biggest thing in hockey. Obviously, I talk about it with goaltending a lot, but I mean, in general, the biggest winner in hockey are those who can be consistent in all areas of their game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And keeping it consistent with the Sharks patterns, of course, New York answered with a goal of their own later, actually on the same power play, off a feed from Barzal to Bo Horvat, who, by the way, has been absolutely red hot to start the season. 5 goals in his last 3 games. Woof. And the Isles unfortunately scored again just a minute later. Another rookie mistake from Sam Dickinson. And I keep saying another because it keeps happening, folks. This time it was him, but even the veteran Sharks defensemen are making rookie mistakes, turning the puck over from behind his own net and allowing it to slip out right in front, right into the slot to Casey Cizikas, who was all alone and close, able to fire it home. No chance at all for Askarov on that one. And so at this point, the Isles had 2 goals on 3 shots, compared to the Sharks only having 1 goal to show for their possession advantage, all those quality high danger chances, and their 9 shots on goal. So you can imagine how I was feeling watching that last night. But Dickinson at least did make up for his rookie mistake when he around the blue line on the offensive zone, he was able to glove down a puck to hold the zone and get it around the boards to Graf, who threw a backhand pass into the slot. And it was Gaudette who actually scored a goal to make it 2-2 off a great feed from Michael Misa. So when I said that Graf pulled a backhand from behind the net into the slot, this is not the same way as how the Isles scored. No. It was a backhand to Michael Misa, who had the perfect pass across. He had a small delay. He was just showing his hockey sense and presence to pull the defenders in closer before passing it back across and leaving a wide open net for Gaudette. And even Sorokin was pulled off to the side. So super, super great awareness of it and timing from Misa. The kid has showing some of the potential he's got there in the craft. And this was actually his first career NHL point in his third career game for the Sharks. So congratulations to Michael Misa from all of us here at the Captain Avalanche Fancast.
Absolutely. We love to see the kid succeed, and here's to many more.
But moving it right along so we don't go too late on our timing. San Jose did, of course, just because San Jose, they can't keep it tied for too long, conceded another power play late in the period. And this is still the first period, mind you, that resulted in an Emil Heinemann goal. This goal was actually a bit odd, though, and had a delay before being officially announced, as the refs initially thought Askarov had the puck covered before actually calling it as a goal on the ice. It wasn't clear. So the booth review was not a challenge. It was not trying to overturn and make it a goal. No, it was called a good goal, and it was a quick, clear, and obvious review that it was a good goal, although bad in my case because, it wasn't scored by my Sharks. But, the Isles fans were happy and whatever. I forget what their arena's called. Really, the summary of the first period after all that comes down to the Sharks had the better chances and looked like the better team, was playing like the faster team, was the more physical team. I haven't said it, but in all these games, the Sharks out-hit their opponents. So love to see that even if we aren't the best offensive team, the best defensive team, hey, we can be a physical team. So the silver lining there, but yet again, found themselves trailing 3-2 at the first intermission. And I'm just going to go through the second period quickly. There's not a lot to note. The longer change was definitely a little bit messier for both teams. This looked a bit more like the Penguins game with the balance of back and forth, although there were less intense, that looked like a dangerous chance. So the really only item of note is in the second period was sloppy defensive positioning yet again, and a play that led to a goal for the number 1 overall pick, Matthew Schaefer. And that's why I mention it. He also had an assist in the first period. Hate it's coming against my team, but what a cool game where we get to see the first overall pick from last year in Celebrini, the number 1 overall pick this year in Schaefer, and the number 2 overall in Misa. So a lot of the future is bright vibes coming from this game. And the only other note from the second period is the Sharks managed to maintain that positive shot on goal advantage, that differential through the period. But both teams, like I said, are just a little bit more disjointed offensively. And, with that, let's just skip all the way to the middle of the third period, Corey, because this is when I really felt like the Sharks were going to flip this game on its head and get their first win, because they had a few minutes of great puck possession, strong forecheck, as well as great neutral zone positioning, passing. Every time the Islanders got the puck out of the zone, they couldn't get it past center ice, and the Sharks were putting it right back in, making it difficult for them to change. There were multiple extended cycles with opportunities, and eventually the Sharks finally got paid off for this one. A strong pass from Orlov, which Celebrini, it looked like a fake shot, and he still fired the pass pretty tough towards Celebrini, but able to corral it and adjust his angle, fire it past Sorokin to bring the Sharks to within a goal, 4-3 in the game. And that was really, really important. I think Orlov did a great job to get around the defender and find an open lane to Celebrini, but Celebrini's ability to quickly, the speed at which it was on and off his stick while turning his body and adjusting his angle, still always so impressive to see. So 2 goals here for Celebrini in this past week. And not long after, it was Askarov with a huge save off a Sharks turnover entering the zone on a power play, no less. But with the nothing doing there. He kept them in it, but the Sharks' momentum did seem to slowly die down there a bit, unfortunately. And with 2 minutes left, it was Matt Barzal almost firing an empty netter home from all the way on his own end line. It just barely missed and went for icing. I mean, the Sharks had some good chances 6-on-5 with the extra skater. That was something that they were good at last year. They haven't had as much success or really any success this year. But Sorokin made multiple big saves, especially on Celebrini, who was just firing at will late in the game. We love to see it, getting pucks to the net, or at least trying to, just firing over and over and over. That's something encouraging to see. But I guess the highlight in the game where the Sharks came up empty, the final score 4-3, remaining winless, all of those things. The Sharks had a season high of 36 shots on goal while allowing only 27 to reach their own net. So, that's positive. We're finally getting the puck onto the net this time. Of course, we didn't get enough of them in the net. And of course, while having less shots on goal, now we let more in. So once again, Corey, solve one problem and two others arise. And oh, brother. 0-4-2 for 2 points. The only team to be winless at this point in the season. Man, it sucks. It sucks. This is why the loss at home versus Vegas was painful. And same with the one in the second game against Anaheim when you just could taste it. And yes, we got the points in those games, but another year of 5+ consecutive losses to start the season. 4 straight years. Like I said earlier, 4 straight years. And this year felt like it was that close. Like we're talking inches from Eklund's empty netter opportunities to having a win and not having that. And here we are. So, got to get your wins when they're there. You got to seize on those opportunities because you don't know when you'll get the next one. I think that's just the words of wisdom, moral of the story I can take from this, Corey. But I've been rambling for a while. So do you have any other thoughts, final Sharks notes, any interjections you might want to add?
I do. And first of all, what you described, it's like coding. You code out one error just for 2 more to happen. But ultimately, they just need to get a win. They just need one to get them rolling in the right direction. But I hate to say this. I can't lie when I say that it feels like if they could have gotten that first win against the Knights, a vastly superior opponent, ice the game, win at home, first one of the season, I think we'd be in a different position right now. I really do. And I just think because of how close that was, it just kind of sent them sliding rather than, we were close. But no, they should have won it, with all due respect. And it's just, I think we maybe would have been talking about them in a bit of a different context, maybe would have had 2 or 3 wins at this point, but unfortunately that's just not the case. So they need to get that first win.
Yeah, I mean, they do. And I mean, this game against the Rangers, you mentioned it. It's a good opportunity. They've only scored 6 goals in their last 5 games or something like that. It is that they've scored 6 goals, but 4 of those came in one game. They've been blanked multiple times and at home, no less. So Sharks need to capitalize because after that, I mean, the Devils on the road, that's going to be a tough one. Then, I mean, the Wild haven't been great, but I got this guy who might be a little overpaid, but still really good out there in Kaprizov. So, it feels like you win this one, or they might be losing another three in a row. So, who knows? Any given night, but yeah, gotta take advantage of the chances you get.
We're gonna hope for the best. But thank you for your time in the tank, Dom. But don't worry, everybody. If you were sad that Dom's section is over, you'll get to hear more of him here in about 3 seconds. Your 3 players of the week. Honorable mention goes to Scott Wedgwood for continuing to hold it down like a champion. Number 3 is Ilya Solovyov. There we go. Number 2 is Josh Manson. And number 1 is Val Nichushkin. Great weeks from all of these guys. Here's hoping it continues. But now it's on to your fun fact, who it is Dom's turn this week, and he has something very topical, very poignant with our Nordiques jerseys. So Dom, please take it away one more time.
Well, thanks, Corey. And yeah, exactly. Considering the much anticipated return of the Quebec Nordiques throwback jersey, Corey, I feel like you might know this, but do you know who the first head coach of the Quebec Nordiques was?
Oh man, you maybe, but you caught me at the time that I don't know. So no, I do not know.
It was Maurice the Rocket Richard.
It was Maurice Richard? Wow, okay.
He was technically the first head coach of the Nordiques. However, he stepped down after just a single game to spend more time with his family amidst some health problems. The Rocket was succeeded by a fellow Maurice Filion, who coached the team over 3 different stints, actually, in the 72 to 73 season, 77 to 78, and finally in the 80 to 81 seasons. But actually, across that whole time, he was also serving as the team's general manager until 1988. So the first full season coach was actually the general manager the whole time and only stepped in times of need for the Quebec Nordiques. So I thought that was a unique fun fact that I didn't even know about until I did some digging with the jerseys coming out. So I hope everyone enjoyed it.
I absolutely do, and I had genuinely no idea, so you definitely taught me something new.
Well, then, a successful fun fact brought to you from the tank, or should we say from the chung bucket, Plankton out.
Well, everyone, the clock is counting down to the final horde. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. If you have something you want to know about the Avalanche Sharks or just hockey in general, reach out to us on our socials or email us and we'll be happy to try and answer it. We would love to hear and read your thoughts on our Instagram. The best thing you can do if you like what we're doing here is to follow us on whatever platform you're using and to share this podcast everywhere you can with everyone you can. I'm Captain Avalanche Corey.
And I'm Dom from the tank.
Check out our new episodes every week. Thanks, everyone.